Alright, good afternoon everyone. Anthony here with Puget Sound Stormwatch, breaking into live coverage ahead of a new wind advisory in effect for most of western Washington. Also, flood watches in effect for some Cascade and Olympic area rivers as well. We'll go over all of that in this stream. Just hang tight, we'll get into action here very shortly. Just waiting on some people to hop in right now. And C, no, we can't do this again. Probably not going to be up to the level of what we saw last Saturday, but pretty close for some areas. You know, last Saturday, the wind advisory went into effect pretty last minute. It's encouraging to see that the wind advisory is in effect a little earlier this time on. So that was pretty good to see from the National Weather Service. We'll also have to break into specific areas because the advisories are in effect for different areas at different times. Sonia, welcome back. Yes, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for future live streams like this one. Wasn't anticipating to go live originally today, just because a lot of people are probably going to be out trick-or-treating here soon. Sun's still yet to go down, and the rain is over the area as seen on the satellite image right over here. And somewhere within this flow here is where our next little storm system is going to rapidly start developing. It's already started developing. You can't really see it as clearly on satellite. You can see it when you switch to the wind overlay though. Notice that little kink in the flow right there. That is our storm beginning to form right behind this atmospheric river. Lisa Silver says it is November. Tomorrow, yes. Lose power in Bonnie Lake if someone sneezes, I swear. So it seems like last Saturday where you lost power before the main wind event even started. You know, most of your area lost power from a heavy shower coming through. Wasn't even a thunderstorm. Pretty impressive. Yes, hello everyone. Welcome in. Glad to see you all here on such short notice. Thank you all for tuning in to Breaking Live coverage. We have flood watches as well as wind advisories in effect for most of our region now through tomorrow and parts of Sunday as well. The latest advisory is in effect until 8 p.m. tomorrow, but expires at 2 p.m. or 5 p.m. depending on your locale for most of the area tomorrow. I'll go over all of that here shortly. I just gotta cross post to Facebook real quick. Also looking at my follower counter, we hit 29,700 followers today. We only need 300 more to hit 30K on Facebook. Pretty impressive. TJ says, good to see you, Anthony, in chat. Yes, we missed you yesterday, TJ. But you know what? That's okay. We're going over all the stuff we talked about yesterday, plus new information starting very soon. Christopher Robert, greetings from Astoria, Oregon. Greetings from Milton, Washington, my friend. Not expecting much with this round down in Astoria, although as the atmospheric river starts to sink south later this afternoon, you'll definitely feel the rain pick up quite a bit. It'll get windy too, but not super windy. The storm system here is expected to impact areas mainly north of Lewis County, including parts of the coast and possibly Long Beach too. Some models do show Long Beach getting in on the action, but not quite the Astoria area. So your area might miss out this round. Yeah, Julie, you were absent yesterday too. I noticed that as well. A lot of regular faces didn't show up. But good to see you all today. Welcome in, everyone. It's posting the update to Facebook. Right now, I think anyone who has the bell rung for notifications are the people who are currently in right now. So wait for the Facebook audience to come flooding in. Also cross-post this to Twitter and Blue Sky as well. Alright, how's everyone doing this afternoon? Are you feeling the effects of the rain quite yet, where you are? Okay, good. Cross-posted to all the major sites. Recovering from foot surgery. So, down for the count today. I see Ange. EJ says, took my mom to lunch in Allen yesterday. Beautiful drive. Must have been. I don't think I've been to the town of Allen before. I've been through that area, but not quite through the Allen Grapeview area. I haven't been on that US 3, or not US, excuse me, on that Washington Highway 3 corridor between 302 and 101. Still yet to drive that corridor. But everything else north of that point, I have been along. Typical Halloween so far. That is true. Should stay a typical Halloween for the most part, but it is the day after, which happens to be my 26th birthday. The last day of being 25, and it couldn't be any more eventful than this. Let's start going into a few additional details here, because we have a multitude of wind advisories out. We've actually issued 4 wind advisories and continued 3 of them until 10 p.m. tonight. Alright guys, just gotta turn on the airflow, starting to get a little toasty in here. Anyways, let's begin with the alerts, shall we? First off, we have a flood watch in effect for the following 5 counties here in western Washington. Whatcom, Skagit, Snohomish, King, and Mason. Here's what the text has to say. Flood watch is in effect from late tonight through late Saturday night. It was interesting to see that that is different from what the alert text says here on the front page. Where was it? It was on the Twitter feed, but it said it was actually in effect for tomorrow through the 2nd. So was interested to see this text right here. Say late tonight through late Saturday night, but this does make more sense. Said it was going to be in effect until 2 p.m. on the 2nd, though, so. Still young, lucky you. Not Pierce County this time, not for the flood watch. No, there's no rivers in Pierce County that are expected to get near action stage or in the flood stage. Action stage is a little bit lower than flood stage, and let me see if I can also pull up the river monitor for the Skokomish to show you guys what I'm talking about. Should be on the geological survey. Trying to find the right site here. I think it might be on the NWPC. Yeah, there we go. So this is what I'm talking about here. There's an action stage in the yellow that is lower than the flooding stage seen here. But the max forecast right now for the Skokomish River over the next couple of days is 16.52 feet, which is 0.02 feet above minor flood stage. We will get into the action stage before that time. We're also looking to crest a little bit higher here about a week ahead of time. We're watching another atmospheric river coming through sometime between the 5th and the 7th for the coast. Christopher says, I just turned 25. Welcome to the club. Cheaper car insurance and the ability to rent motels nationwide as far as I know. So, welcome to it. So yeah, this is the Skokomish River near Potlatch, the only one currently looking to hit minor flood stage. Although there is a possibility that a few other rivers in King and Snohomish counties get near flood stage, and Skagit and Whatcom rivers could get up to action stage, but not quite flood stage at the moment. Let me show you what the text entails here. This includes the cities of Edmonds, Bellingham, Shelton, Mount Vernon, Burlington, Linwood, Seattle, Everett, Marysville, Anacortes, and Cedar Woolley. But do note that this is a river flood watch, so it's just in effect for the counties, which includes the following cities. Although some of these cities do not have rivers, so you don't have to worry about the threat of river flooding. More so, there's a chance of some aerial and small stream flooding in some of these cities as well, separate from the river flooding threat. So it just says flooding caused by excessive rainfall is possible from late tonight through Saturday night. Rainfall forecast between 3 to 5 inches, locally higher amounts possible Saturday night. And high snow levels will result in a lot of snow melt from any recent snow in the higher elevations. This could flow down into some of the area rivers, mostly along the Cascades, but also the Skokomish is listed here for the Olympics. This includes the Snohomish River in Snohomish County, Skykomish River in Snohomish and King counties, and the Snoqualmie River in the King and Snohomish counties. They're also expecting to a lesser extent the Skagit, Stillaguamish, and Nooksack rivers across Snohomish, Skagit, and Whatcom counties. Could possibly get near flood stage. Yeah, happy belated birthday to you, Christopher. Oddly enough, my middle name is also Christopher. What are the chances? Yeah, once again, in effect for rivers in the following 5 counties here: Whatcom, Skagit, King, Snohomish, and Mason. So that is the flood alert currently in effect. Now for the wind advisory, this one's a bit more intuitive, because although it's in effect for a lot of different areas, they do have these separate contours for several different spots. Because there are different initial, trying to think of the right word to use here. There's different issuance times and different expiration times. That's what I was trying to say. And here's an interactive map of the area. So the wind advisory currently in effect for San Juan County and Whatcom County will be allowed to expire at 10 p.m. tonight. They have not issued any updated wind advisories for these areas, including areas such as Sumas, Ferndale, Bellingham, Blaine, San Juan Island, Orcas Island, Shaw Island, Lopez Island, and some surrounding areas. Also Lummi Island as well. No wind advisory in effect for the Strait of Juan de Fuca, an exception of the Port Townsend area, including parts of Discovery Bay, Port Hadlock, and Port Ludlow. And the far western end, including Cape Flattery, Nia Bay, Ho Indian Reservation, Waatch area, and Queets, and points further south along the coast, down to the Pacific County and Grace Harbor County line. Do I always cover Skagit County too? Yeah, so it's not in my immediate primary coverage area, but it is in one of my coverage areas where when breaking weather events like this happen, I do cover you primarily. So of course, as the name follows, Puget Sound Stormwatch, my immediate coverage area is areas directly along the Puget Sound. But I do also cover areas here in the Seattle County warning area, which is from Whatcom County down south to Lewis County and west along the coast here, not including Pacific, Wahkiakum, Cowlitz, Clark, or Skamania counties in western Washington. Though I have had requests for that before, it kind of ruins the name Puget Sound Stormwatch, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I do primarily cover Skagit County, but not all the time. Really during breaking events like this. Most of the time, it's Snohomish County down to Thurston and across over the Mason and Kitsap counties. And Island counties as well. So mainly just this swath of area is my number one area. Yeah, we could very well see salmon crossing the road, although it's not going to be super high waters there along the Skokomish, but possibly high enough to see some salmon crossing the road in the Potlatch area. Good to know. Great coverage too. Thank you guys so much for your support. So we need to go into specifics on this wind advisory here. You know, I did put out a pretty intuitive graphic on my Facebook page if you guys are coming over from there, which went into specifics based on each region, because different cities have the wind advisories in effect for different times. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. The first one is the Port Townsend area and Island County. It's currently a wind advisory that remains in effect until 10 p.m. That will expire, but will be replaced by a new wind advisory from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow. Wind gusts to 50 miles per hour in these spots for the first wind advisory. And for the second one, wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour from the southwest, becoming westerly when the surge picks up. It includes Whidbey Island, Camano Island, Port Townsend, Port Hadlock, and Port Ludlow of some areas to include. So that's area number one. Area number two is the North Washington coast. This is north of Grays Harbor County. This includes the coast of Jefferson and Clallam counties. This includes Quileute, Neah Bay, La Push, Queets, and Ozette of all areas. Current wind advisory will be allowed to expire at 7 p.m., but the second wind advisory will replace it from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow. First wind advisory has gusts up to 45 miles per hour, and the second one keeps the same stats, 15 to 25 mile per hour sustained winds, gusts up to 45 miles per hour expected. Looks like mainly out of the westerly direction for these parts. So this is the North Washington coast, including the areas of Jefferson and Clallam counties directly along the coast. Area number three is a much larger area. This is mainly north and east of the Olympia area. Wind advisory covering most of the Puget Sound will go into effect at 9 a.m. tomorrow until 5 p.m. tomorrow, with southerly winds 10 to 20 mile per hour sustained, with gusts up to 45 miles per hour expected in some areas. This includes metro areas of Everett, Seattle, Tacoma. This does not include Olympia, however. Do be advised, this is down to the Pierce-Thurston County line from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So it includes all of the cities listed here, including a lot of foothill locations, all the way from Lewis County up to parts of Snohomish County. I believe that also includes Skagit County, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so foothill spots of Skagit County, because I see Sedro-Woolley up here. So this does include the foothills of Lewis, Pierce, King, Snohomish, and Skagit counties as well. Gonna take a quick little drink break here. Bear with me, guys. Continue on this here in just a second. Sorry guys, I keep hitting the pop mount right here. Okay, and then the next area here is areas of western Washington, south and west of Olympia, and south of the northern coast, including the coast of Grays Harbor County. So this includes Thurston County, Lewis County, and Grays Harbor County. And I do believe this also includes Mason County, if I'm not mistaken. Just trying not to mix up my areas here. So bear with me there. The wind advisory here will be in effect from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So similar time, exact same wind speeds expected, except out of the southwest for this area. Just expiring 3 hours earlier than the South Sound northward. This includes the foothills of the western southern Olympic Peninsula. Grays Harbor County coast, including Ocean Shores and Westport, lower Chehalis River Valley, including Centralia, Chehalis, and Grand Mound, middle Chehalis River Valley, lowlands of Lewis, southern Thurston County, Olympia, and southern Puget Sound, and Willapa and Black Hills area, including Capitol Peak. So a lot of cities to list in this one. So it includes Grisdale, PL, Chehalis, Amanda Park, Hoquiam, Montesano, Westport, Hump Tulips, Forks, McCleary, Lacey, Olympia, Grand Mound, Ford's Prairie, Beaver, Elma, Rochester, Ocean Shores, Tumwater, Aberdeen, Quinault, and Clearwater. In effect from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. Southwest winds sustained 15 to 25 miles per hour with gusts up to 45 miles per hour can be anticipated during this time frame. Last one we have here is the expiration message for Western Whatcom County as well as San Juan County, because the wind advisory will not be continued after 10 p.m. Will expire at 10 p.m. and will be allowed to expire with no replacement. Just saying the south winds 15 to 25 miles per hour and gusts to 45 miles per hour will come to an end at 10 p.m. this afternoon. What's the little surface low looking like tomorrow? Says Christopher. So far, we're in the early stages right now. The little surface low is trying to get going here in this little kink in the flow behind the atmospheric river. Starts to become a little more organized as you go forward in time. And let me show you what I mean here. So remember this area. As you see that little kink in the low level flow here, this is the surface low becoming organized. So go on through the afternoon, it's going to become more and more organized, and you're going to notice this kink grow in size. It's getting closer as we go through tonight, starting to develop some surface low characteristics here, such as the counterclockwise spin around the low pressure center. Then as we go in through the early morning hours tomorrow, you notice it starts to develop a front along the boundary as well. You start to see these surface wind gusts picking up. These are sustained winds on this map though. And then it starts to develop a low pressure contour here at 1003 millibars by 4 a.m. Just off the coast, and this European model wants to take it a little farther north than some of the high-res models, and I'll go over those as well for this time. Then it has a 1000 millibar low making landfall somewhere around Cape Flattery, a very favorable spot for some strong winds in this area by 7 a.m. tomorrow. And it looks to bring a little cold front along with it too. Let me go and switch this to gusts real quick. We'll take a closer look here at the Puget Sound area because you notice you already have these purple and blue contours here, which indicate strong wind gusts possible. So this is the European model. The newest one is showing 42 miles per hour for this immediate area down here in Tacoma. Showing 44 miles per hour for the Tacoma vicinity and close to 50 miles per hour for parts of Everett down here in southwest Snohomish County. You notice also the westerly surge is at full speed here at this time as well. This is noon. Has some areas here over the open waters of the Salish Sea, possibly getting up to 55 miles per hour at times. It's even showing some gusts near 65 miles per hour up here in the foothill locations of Skagit County. So we'll have to be on the lookout for that. Even up here in Whatcom County, also showing over 60 miles per hour for the glacier area near the Mount Baker summit. Over here in the open, lighter colored purple areas, these are 40 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts across much of the area. Ashley says, no more wind. Unfortunately, it comes back after this too. We're looking out to the November 3rd and 4th time frame. Good to see we have 20 viewers. We have broken the previous record for yesterday. I think yesterday we had 16 at most, so good to see that the reach is getting out there. Hello everyone, happy Halloween. Anthony here with Puget Sound Stormwatch for anyone just joining in. Breaking into live coverage, we have flood watches and wind advisories now in effect for the area for the next couple of days. Can you share the merch link? Yeah, I can share the merch link with you guys. If you guys are talking about Puget Sound Stormwatch merch. 3 days left, 20% off everything. Let me go ahead and give you guys the link to this real quick. We'll also go ahead and link the Ko-fi or Ko-fi, however you pronounce this, donation site as well. Huge shout out to everyone that has donated coffees since I started up this site. We have 22 different supporters. Huge thanks to Diana Stevens for being a gold donator, Lady Blue for being a silver donator, and Jen for being the bronze donator. Thank you guys, everyone, and for all of the kind messages you guys have given me. Huge shout out goes to all of you. Let's go look at some other models real quick. Let's look at the Her 3KM, which looks even more enticing than previously seen before. So it has what kind of looks like a similar Stingjet feature. Oh yeah, that is a clear as day Stingjet right there. That would be very interesting if this forecast were to come to fruition. Takes it into landfall in a similar spot that we saw on Saturday, albeit not as strong of a pressure gradient this time around. It brings it directly up the Puget Sound, which could have interesting repercussions on some areas. This has a wider swath of 50+ mile-per-hour wind gusts across much of the Puget Sound area, if this one were to verify. You notice here, strong wind shadow cutoff here to the northeast of the Olympics. We should eventually see that westerly surge pickup behind the frontal boundary and the potential for a Puget Sound convergence zone to form somewhere over Snohomish County and gradually slide south towards I-90 as the afternoon goes on tomorrow. So clear as day convergence zone signature right there. Westerly winds around the Olympics are split to the north through the Strait of Juan de Fuca and south through the Chehalis River Valley. Meet up again somewhere over the King Snohomish County line because the air has nowhere to go but up. Where it condenses, forms showers, sometimes thunderstorms, and occasionally strong winds over an isolated area. So that is the Her 3KM model. Showing wind gusts picking up sometime around 7 a.m. for the South Sound and getting going through much of the Puget Sound around 8 a.m. Keith, hello, saying getting windy up here, getting heavy rains. Thank you for your report again, Keith. Let's go to the NAM. This one uses the 5KM infrastructure, not the 3KM, but still very similar results for this one. Unfortunately, it looks like windy, it took a dump right there, so we're going to try and refresh. If it decides to work, which it will this time around. So this is NAM model imagery showing southerly winds picking up across much of the area as early as tonight. Could have some of these winds get up here into the 40 mile per hour range, points Everett northward, including some of the northern Kitsap Peninsula and the Hood Canal Bridge area. This is why they still have the wind advisory in effect for these areas, not including Skagit County, until 10 p.m., but will be allowed to expire. Then things calm down for a little bit this afternoon, and then look at that. There's the next storm system on our doorstep, just like that. The NAM has it somewhere in the 1003 millibar range with a clearly defined cold front boundary extending off to its southwest. This would be at 7 a.m. tomorrow, hanging on around 1004 millibars as it makes landfall somewhere around the La Push area. You notice how quickly the wind gusts pick up around this area. By 9 a.m. it has wind gusts already in the 40 mile per hour range for much of the central Puget Sound, potentially all the way up towards Bellingham as well. Scott Buchanan says, rain's now falling in the city of Everett. And Kimmy1654 is also up in Bellingham. Looks like you have a neighbor in here, Keith Caballaro. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining in. We have 25 of us in here at the moment. Good to see a pretty good turnout this time around. Then we'll watch the wind gusts throughout the afternoon time as the back end of that frontal boundary comes in, because it has the Tacoma area picking up to 43 miles per hour. It has areas just south of Everett getting up to 46 miles per hour on this map. You notice here in some of the foothill spots, we're getting up towards the 50 marker, some of these areas. And in Mount Rainier National Park, a whopping 71 miles per hour expected for that area. I believe Chinook Pass Summit actually hit 71 earlier today. But it has most of the winds starting to die down a bit, and then a convergence zone forming over the Seattle area sometime around 4 p.m. tomorrow. And then same ordeal here, that westerly surge right behind that front. That is what's really going to get this convergence zone to kick off tomorrow afternoon. And then it has it sliding a little bit south towards I-90 before dissipating as the afternoon turns to nightfall around the area. So pretty decent model agreement on timing and placement of this low when it comes to all the three models that I use primarily. The European, the HRRR, and the NAM. The big difference, though, is the strength of the storm, and that could have huge ramifications for max wind gusts for much of the Puget Sound area and Western Washington. Models still have not narrowed down on a clear solution for these, just as a heads up. Yeah, like Lisa Seckler said, eat, sleep, storm watch, repeat. That is one of my designs. I may actually refine this design in the near future, but if you guys want to buy the prototype design right now, feel free to support Puget Sound Stormwatch on the Stormwatch store. The link is down in the comments. Also have Let Me Take a Shelfie, Stratus Quo, Puget Sound Stormwatch logo across all the merch, and the highly requested on Facebook, Every Cloud Has a Story quote. Yes, even this one. I only have one sale total since I launched the store, so if you guys want to help me out and consider buying up merchandise, please consider doing so to help out the channel. Yes, happy Halloween, everyone. TJ says getting some gusts now in West Olympia. Let's go back to current satellite imagery with a radar overlay. Heavy rain showers moving into Tacoma now at this time. This did move in a little bit earlier than the forecast was showing. It was showing around 6 p.m. for much of the area, but rain started around 3 p.m. So that's why you don't always trust the model guidance. It's only a basis. You know, the rest of it is really just real-time observations that people have to make, which in this case would be myself, since I run Puget Sound Stormwatch as a sole proprietor. Has really heavy rain showers moving from southwest to northeast across the San Juan Islands into Bellingham now. So Bellingham folks who are watching, the heaviest of rain is still yet to come. It's almost trick-or-treat time. Should start picking up with trick-or-treaters here sometime around 6 p.m. after the sun goes down. It's looking nice and wet for a lot of us, because this atmospheric river is going to hold up on us tonight. Not as progressive as the one last Friday. And it's somewhere right in here right now, that little sneaker storm system is really going to start developing here rapidly as it moves just off the coast. Looks like the approximate track is going to be somewhere between Cape Flattery and Ocean Shores right now. And the approximate landfalling strength is going to be somewhere between 1004 and 1002 millibars, which doesn't seem very strong. But a pressure gradient that close to us will definitely kick up the winds quite a bit, especially one that's still developing as it moves in. If it hit full maturity, it probably wouldn't be a big deal because it would start decaying as soon as it moved in. This one is a little bit different. It's most likely not going to do that. It may even see strengthening as it moves into the open waters of the Salish Sea as well. But somewhere in here right now, we're really going to see that mid-latitude cyclone try to develop pretty quickly amidst the southwesterly flow down here. Southwesterly being from southwest to northeast. And then go back to current winds around the area. Still gusting to 51 here out of the southeast of Whidbey Island. This station hit 58 miles per hour earlier. A few reports of power outages and wind damage here on Whidbey Island. But there's a station down here in Port Townsend. Yes, you're seeing that right. Max gust of 61 miles per hour earlier. I don't think a single model showed that. So the fact that we're already exceeding wind speeds in this area and the main event still hasn't come yet is a cause of concern for me. You know, you guys probably saw how concerned I was with the forecast as it evolved last weekend when we covered that windstorm. When I started seeing things 70 plus here for wind gusts along the coast, you know, you probably saw the look in my face. I was like, oh boy, this is the real deal coming in. Not expecting nearly as strong of a pressure gradient over the area this time around. However, things could rapidly change in the blink of an eye, so do be prepared for anything. And I mean anything. Even gusting to 41 miles per hour here at Cherry Point. Max wind gusts 43 miles per hour earlier. Once again, the wind advisory for these areas will be allowed to expire at 10 p.m., including western Whatcom County and San Juan County. But as far as I know, I think if I recall correctly, I said that the wind advisory for tomorrow will replace the current wind advisory for Island County. If we go back here, that will be the case, yes. Wind advisory remains in effect until 10 p.m. for Island County and the Port Townsend vicinity, but a second one will replace it from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow. Wind gusts to 50 miles per hour for the first wind advisory. As we saw, we already broke this by 11 miles per hour, so kind of a bust there. But for the second wind advisory, southwesterly winds sustained 15 to 25 miles per hour, with gusts up to 45 miles per hour, becoming westerly in the afternoon as that westerly surge starts to kick up. So we actually have, in reality, 5 different wind advisories in effect under one sort of zone here. Looks confusing, doesn't it? It took about 20 to 25 minutes for me to write up the briefing on Facebook, just because I had to be careful with each and every area listed here, because there's 5 different zones here for 5 different advisory criteria. And they did not list the ones where the wind advisories currently are that will be expiring at 10 o'clock. Only the places where the wind advisory currently are that will be replaced by another one, which are the Port Townsend area, Island County, and the North Washington coast of Jefferson and Tuolumne counties. But the new wind advisory for Grays Harbor County points eastward here along the Puget Sound, down in the southwest interior and the foothills of the Cascades, will go into effect at 9 a.m. tomorrow. But some areas expire at 2 p.m., some expire at 5 p.m. So if you're on Facebook, be sure to read that briefing carefully. I also cross-posted it to Patreon if you guys want to read it as well. Let me just refresh this and show you guys. Yeah, there's my most recent post on the wind advisory. So I'll go ahead and link this down below for you guys as well. Yes, attention to detail is critical because some areas will be impacted differently than others. Here's an example of the write-up I gave, with several different bullet points here covering each of the 5 zones. For example, if you live south and west of Olympia, your wind advisory is in effect from 9 a.m. tomorrow to 2 p.m. Max wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour from the southwest direction are expected. This area includes Olympia, Lacey, Shelton, Ocean Shores, Aberdeen, Hoquiam, Chehalis, Grand Mountain, Toledo, Elma, and Westport. This is listing a lot of key cities here. So if you're in proximity to one of these key cities that I listed in any of these advisories, then read each bullet point very carefully. I made sure to say, please read each of the following excerpts very, very carefully. ETG Vortex, welcome back. Do you think this atmospheric river makes the windstorms worse since all the soil gets more wet like it does? Making trees more susceptible to wind, it can certainly enhance things this time of the year. We're still pretty early in the season. The last windstorm did help prune a lot of those vulnerable trees. Took a lot of leaves off the trees that still haven't had the leaves fall off. But some of those trees do still remain, and there are some trees that were weakened but not taken out by the last windstorm that could possibly be taken out by this one. So just as a heads up there, if you see any leaning trees or anything where the roots are starting to stick up, do be advised there is a small but non-zero possibility that those trees could come down during that time. So there's a link to the Patreon post down below, and if you guys want to help pledge to Puget Sound Stormwatch on a monthly basis, do consider that as well if you don't have Facebook. I do have a lot of subscriber-only posts here on Patreon. Thank you to the 2 members who are supporting me on a monthly basis. Huge shout out goes to you guys. Without your guys' help, this would not be possible. Go and check out the Atmospheric River Index again from the agency that rates them. Most recent update, we're going based on the European model here. You make sure this refreshes real quick. There we go. So the European model here for the next 7 days shows most of the Washington coast being in Category 3 atmospheric river conditions, at least based off the ensemble average. But if we go to the control, actually has the southern Washington coast getting up to Category 5, the max level for atmospheric rivers over the next 7 days. This is not just including today's atmospheric river. It could get up to 2 more atmospheric rivers over the next week, mainly centered over Oregon and the southern Washington coast. Interesting to see this Category 5 signal here for Pacific County. You don't see that too often around here. So the seriousness for this incoming moisture is definitely there. And with the first flood watch of the season going into effect for a lot of area rivers, you know, you can see here, this is the forecast for the Skokomish River near Potlatch, in case you guys missed this. It is just going into minor flood stage. It will go into action stage here right after the clock crosses midnight. Action stage is not considered flood stage. It's exactly as it sounds like. It's just the stage where you take action for the area. Action stage is 15 feet at the Skokomish, and minor flood stage is 16.5 feet. Could get a little bit closer to moderate flooding stage here at the Skokomish with this next big atmospheric river expected sometime around the November 7th timeframe. This is a heads up to anyone that lives in Mason County in the low-lying areas. A little bit breezy coming down the mountain gaps, but nothing that is out of the ordinary. Sure is getting a little breezy down here in Olympia. Wind gusts of 24 miles per hour down here in downtown, right by the Capitol, and 21 at the regional airport just south of town. Already gusting up close to 40 miles per hour here currently at the Bowerman Airport in Hoquiam, with a max wind gust of 47 miles per hour so far today. Thank you, Lisa, saying your write-ups are very clear and easy to understand. I wish I could say the same for a lot of Facebook folks, because people are trying everything they can to try to call me out on the smallest details. Seeing a lot of larger pages starting to follow me as well. Like, for example, I got a lot of ServPro pages from around the area that all followed me at the same time and have been sharing my posts consistently. It's cool to see a company like ServPro start watching the pages. Look at that, 83 miles per hour here at Camp Muir on the southeast side of Mount Rainier. Already outperforming a lot of the models down here today. We're not even to the big event yet. This is why I can't stress this enough. That the models are only used as guidance, not real-time forecasts. Yeah, we really got to watch this thing in real time. Unfortunately, I won't be watching it like a hawk tomorrow because I'm going to be spending the time with family. I will occasionally post updates, especially before dinner time, but around dinner time when things should start to calm down, I won't post as much. Really just depends on what I'm doing tomorrow because I'm still not 100% sure. Yeah, like there's a ServPro of Grays Harbor and Pacific County, ServPro of Skagit County, ServPro of just the Marysville and Arlington area, ServPro of Edmonds and Linwood, ServPro of Kitsap County and ServPro of Whatcom County. Really interesting when you get the attention of larger LLCs like that. You know, incorporations, limited liability companies, and corporations overall. It's really interesting to see that on Facebook. I'm just watching all these comments pour in, and I've been trying to nick down on the, you know, hey, Pivotal Weather only covers so much. You know, it can only zoom in so far. So there's not much I can do about the specific cities that you don't see in this map. It's just the layout, you know, and unfortunately a lot of people are frustrated by that. Here we go again. What about Enumclaw? Looks like people are appreciating the split up zones though, so good to see that. See anything for Squim? Another, what about Enumclaw? Heard someone say that I neglect the Olympic Peninsula earlier. No, I ticked someone off when I said that I wouldn't cover areas primarily south of Lewis County. Like there was someone down in Clark County that wanted me to cover their area, but I just said, unfortunately, I don't primarily cover that area. It's a secondary area, and even then, it's only when there's huge breaking weather events down there. Like I did cover the aftermath of the Longview microburst that should have been considered a tornado based on what I've seen. Video footage and damage reports and all that. Should have been a tornado, but I did cover that on the page after it happened, just not during when it happened. It was such a subtle feature that it was almost impossible to forecast in real time, especially with all that was going on around here at the time too. One of the buoys at Cherry Point had a wind gust of 41 miles per hour. Yeah, I talked about that one about 15 minutes ago or so, but it was, yeah, it was this buoy right out here. Cherry Point South Dock Met buoy right there. Gusting to 35 now just outside of Cedro Woolley and 35 up here in the Sumas Mountains. 40 miles per hour to the northeast flank of Mount Baker near their observation area. And 32 here in Haynesville. But this isn't the main wind event that we're talking about here. Looks like we're just starting to get the 18Z European. I've been waiting for this all day. And it doesn't show the feature as potent here as the high resolution models. This is also on a 3-hour semi-hourly basis. You notice it does bring kind of a tight pressure gradient over this area sometime later tomorrow morning. Let's see what it says for max wind gusts. This is my first time seeing this, by the way. It's still consistently showing wind gusts around this area 40 plus, but not showing as much down here for the Tacoma area. Tacoma itself is at 36, but you immediately go to the west and it's up to 43. I do wish that Pivotal Weather had a more intuitive, user-friendly format than this, but I don't think we're going to get our way with that. Also seems to have backed off on the November 3rd solution. I think it brings the center of low pressure way farther south than this one, which could also spare us another pretty decent windstorm in just a couple of days. Let me show you what I mean by that. I think back in the 12Z, you can see this around here. Yeah, see? Okay, that's a different day. So it's right around this period, but we have to go a little farther back in time. There we go. So this would be for 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, November 4th, showing a bunch of 50 plus wind gusts here with another little low pressure system sneaking up on us in about 3 days or so, but it has since backed off on that solution entirely. It looks like it brings it farther south. I'll have to wait for the high resolution models to get in better agreement closer to the duration of the event. Will probably be in range sometime around the morning of November 2nd to start to compare all the high-res models and see what they have to say. But the European now, this one only goes out to the morning of the 6th. So we'll have to wait for the 0Z later tonight to go out to 15 days and see if it picks up on any of these trends farther out than that. If you guys saw my post on the NAM 3 cam earlier, the NAM 3 cam brings a pretty decent blow to this area. And it looks like we just hit 1,110 subscribers here on YouTube. So thank you all who just subscribed. Alex in Wonderland, welcome back. Good evening to you. Yeah, this is what the most recent 18Z NAM 3 cam, the Continental US model, shows for our area. Tomorrow afternoon, this one has wind gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour for much of the central Puget Sound. You can see this line where the potential cold front would be. And then right after that, it agrees. Boom, westerly surge right behind that. At 5 p.m., affecting most of Whidbey Island, the Port Townsend area, Diamond Point, the Dungeness Spit, and surrounding areas, possibly down into Everett. And this is around the time that convergence zone should form over the area as well. Do note that this actually shows the winds picking up pretty quickly, especially in the South Sound, down here around 7 to 8 a.m., lasting all the way into 1 p.m., maybe even later than that. So we could have several hours of strong winds tomorrow with this storm system. Possibly longer in duration than Saturday, but not as strong in strength. You know, that's what I'm trying to portray to you guys right now. There's all of these variables that have to be taken into consideration. This is what the 18Z HER 3 cam showed. Really strong winds around this area. The 18Z has just shy of 60 miles per hour here along the King and Snohomish County line, and getting over 60 miles per hour here at Capitol Peak and some areas of the Willapa Hills out here, and over 60 miles per hour for the Long Beach Peninsula as well. Wasn't it in EF0 in Longview? I haven't seen any reports from the National Weather Service in Portland, which covers that area, that confirms it was a tornado. Right now, the initial indication is wet microburst. And I haven't seen any updates from them saying it was a confirmed tornado, just a microburst. Now, I was hoping they could get some footage to change that, but it doesn't look like they did. Or the footage didn't provide clear, concrete evidence that it was a tornado. You know, they assume it's straight line wind damage. Yes, I do think it should have been at least an EF0, maybe an EF1, a very low end EF1, if what I saw was correct. The HER 3 cam here has winds quickly picking up around the same time as the NAM 3 cam, getting up over 40 miles per hour for Tacoma and vicinity and west of Tacoma, already up to 50 miles per hour here along the coast at 8 a.m. And quickly kicking up to close to 50, if not over 50 in some spots. It has the Milton area where I have this highlighted right now at 50 dead on. Alex says, Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. This also has a similar event playing out. Possible stronger winds along the I-90 corridor here and stronger than the NAM 3 cam here just off of Whidbey Island, right around the Deception Pass area. So overall, I see good agreement between the high-res models, but not quite with the European. The European is usually the one to go to for wind events around here. Yeah, this is the HER 3 cam showing Tacoma getting up over 50 miles per hour at 12 p.m. tomorrow. 23Z's rendering, but it only goes out to 18 hours. I'm waiting for the 0Z HER 3 cam to start rendering. It should be in the next hour and a half or so. and has things calming down quickly as you go into the second. See what it shows for reflectivity during this time. Yeah, there's our current atmospheric river right now. And then the storm system comes in. Really interesting signal there. It almost looked like sort of a line of showers, but I believe this is the cold front coming through with that system. It's probably going to be around the time we get the strongest winds in this area is when this cold front passes over. See, and then it has that convergence zone forming. Even showing some areas, even showing a thunderstorm signal here later on in the evening too. See what it shows for lightning flashes. Yeah, it shows a lightning flash signal here on the HRRR, but it isn't always accurate. Sometimes it overdoes some of the radar coverage on here. So just as a heads up, I don't exactly trust this signal 100%. It does show some post-frontal showers and possible thunderstorms behind that too, which could keep the weather interesting into the morning time on Sunday. Keith says, just enjoying my coffee, watching you and listening to the wind and rain. I'll be interested to see if Michael goes live tonight. We just broke 30 viewers at a time. Thank you all so much. We've already doubled our max viewership from yesterday's stream. Funny because yesterday's stream was planned too, and we just didn't have a huge viewership that time around. So I'm glad to see a lot of new faces coming back in this time. Welcome everybody just joining us. We're also almost to 200 views already, and I've been streaming for a little under an hour. Good to see a lot of people want to hear the message. Thank you for choosing Puget Sound Stormwatch for your live stream coverage. Wouldn't be surprised though. Okay, I thought I saw somebody live, but I know Ben with Washington Weather Chasers is streaming the satellite and radar coverage right now, but he's not streaming live like discussion like I am. I do anticipate Michael did say he was either going to do another video tonight or a live briefing with everybody. And yes, Randy Small with Whatcom County Weather said he was going to go live, possibly also. If you guys want to go and subscribe to Whatcom County Weather, if you're up north there, do consider subscribing to Whatcom County Weather on YouTube. Ran by Randy Small. Also, Whatcom County Weather on Facebook. 57,000 followers for them if you guys want to go join along. They do a lot of Western Washington coverage as well. Looking at some of your Facebook comments right now. Good seeing a lot of thanks coming in, so good to see a lot of thank yous. Happy early birthdays. You know, happy birthday, Eve. Really, really enlightening to see all the nice comments. Thank you guys very much for that. Yeah, Scott Sistek with Emerald City Weather just posted, the forecast for Saturday has bumped up in the wind department, and now wind advisories are in effect for Seattle and the Puget Sound area for gusts to 45 to 50 miles per hour in the heart of the day. It looks like he was sort of taken back by that upgrade as well. So I don't think anyone expected wind advisories for this just 2 days ago. You know, this storm system came up on our radar literally 2 nights ago. Like when the 0Z deterministics came out, we noticed, oh hey, there's a little sneaker low forming within the atmospheric river that comes to the area, rapidly develops and gives us a blow of wind. That immediately caught my attention, so had to post that to Facebook and other areas, and here we are covering it now as we get closer in time and starting to get the bigger picture with the higher res models coming out now. See what the 18Z GFS has to show for this area. Much lower in resolution, but can give us a pretty good picture of what could be coming in the coming days. And the GFS picks up on this too, albeit nowhere near as strong. See, it does bring that front through. This could very likely be the tail end of that atmospheric river. And the GFS has completely taken the November 3rd and 4th situation out of the forecast. It's really confused to see that. Also, it does appear we could have another one of those little sneakers form here too. Notice that kink in the flow coming through here, a favorable spot. So some wind now looking possible sometime Thursday afternoon or night around the area. Notice the pressure gradient across the area. Could see some strong wind with that too. And then this just in, oh boy, that would be a nice breeze to areas south of Olympia, wouldn't it? Sometime around the November 9th frame, it brings a 988 millibar low just south of Tacoma. But the strongest pressure gradient would be on the south end of this, so this would spare the Puget Sound any strong damaging winds. I could see strong winds immediately off the coast here with Cape Disappointment and Astoria in its bullseye. And strong winds also possible down here in the Willamette and Columbia River valleys, if that were to verify. It brings another storm into the Central Oregon coast on Veterans Day. And then what looks like a strong frontal system through here on the 13th. And it's just front after front after front after front on the GFS. We're about halfway through astronomical fall. I think it started out pretty slow. Because you notice there were times where the storm train would try to get going, but then a ridge would come in and interrupt it every few days. And we'd have a ridge here and there, and then we were still getting 70s in September. But then, yeah, as soon as like the middle of October rolled around, it really flipped that switch for the storm train. See, for total rainfall and precipitation accumulation, also including snow over the mountains, this is over the next 16 days. It shows some areas getting up over 7 inches of rain, much less here in the rain shadow zone. But this is an indication that we are in for an extremely active next 2 weeks, going into the first 2 weeks of November here. This would be valid at, you got to remember, this is after the time change. So this is -8 Zulu now. So this would be 10 a.m. on the 16th of November. This is what the GFS is estimating for total precipitation. 1.5 feet of total precipitation and greater over the Olympics and the North Cascades. And over Mount Rainier as well, getting... a lot of this could fall as snow. Remember that too. It could fall as snow in a lot of these areas. King tides are coming up too, and I was listening in on Michael's stream last night. I know a couple of you guys were there, talking about how we could get a nice, decent, broad trough off the coast during the time of the king tides, which could really kick up the wave action along the Washington coast. So it sounds like Michael may be going out there with a few of his buddies to go and investigate a lot of this. See, 18Z AI forecast system is rendering 2. We can get a general idea with that. Although this is limited on the parameters that it shows. The AIFS picks up on this system too. Albeit it has it at around 1006 millibars. And it has the system in a couple of days landfalling somewhere over Central Oregon now, not up here anymore. And then frontal system comes through sometime around the 5th. And this would be around peak time for the king tides. Notice that huge low pressure center off the coast there. Brings another front through. And then this could be something of interest here. Just hot off the press. It's not even fully rendered yet, but this is showing a potential deep storm system immediately off the coast sometime around the afternoon time on Sunday the 9th. So we'll be watching this closely too, because I don't think the previous European 12Z showed this. The AI forecast system's on to something here. Perhaps another big blow in the second week of November to kick things off. want to see what the progression is on the 23Z of this system. It's been trending deeper with that low pressure the farther you go into these model runs. Has it somewhere around 1004 millibars in this run here. Then 21Z, 20Z, 19Z. 19Z had it really deep. That would bring a big time blow to this area if that were to happen. But I don't see it following the same trend right now. The HRRR may actually start trying to trend down to compensate for any variabilities with this, like the storm track and the depth of the low pressure center as well. So we could see a little downtrending with those wind amounts on the HRRR as we go into the night and early tomorrow morning. Is there anyone in here right now that missed the flood and wind briefing earlier that would like me to go over it one more time? I can gladly go over it one more time real quick, give you guys a real quick crash course of all of that. See, there's a few new people who might have joined late who didn't get that information. Seeing this post from meteorologist Chris Nunley as well. I repost a lot of his posts for this area on my Facebook story. He's bumped up his wind amounts here too. Max wind gusts for Saturday. Most of this area in the 40 to 50 mile per hour range. The wind risk has increased for Saturday across western Washington. Widespread gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour likely, and high resolution model guidance continues to show 55 mile per hour gusts for the central and south sound, which is mainly Seattle and points southward down towards Tacoma. So yeah, real deal here, folks. The NWS has already put out that wind advisory, which already tells you they're starting to take this thing seriously. So originally they had no mention of this little sneaker system forming down here. Not until this afternoon. It was really refreshing to see that. Yeah, if you guys follow meteorologist Chris Nunley on Facebook, he posts a lot of updates for this area. I believe he was actually born in Everett, so his roots are in this area. Scott Sistek, meteorologist, also posted a nice blog briefing as well. Reading his briefing right now. Yeah, he's saying at least be prepared for gusts in the low 50 mile per hour range, at least. Looks like SeaTac's max wind gust was 56 miles per hour last Sunday. I thought it was 53, but they might have bumped it up to 56. This would be right on par for the immediate SeaTac area. You know, the Narrows got that 66 mile per hour wind gust on Saturday before the station went down. Not a single model sniffed that one out for that spot. It blew all model coverage out of the water with that. Don't like wind gusts tomorrow for Everett. Yeah, not liking the wind gusts for my birthday. It's cool to have weather for my birthday, but not something that could knock out the power where I'm at on my birthday while we're celebrating. That could be kind of a Debbie Downer, you know. You said that last week. It was breezy, but nothing too bad. Just when I thought there would be a lot of positive feedback, there's people like that. Should have known, am I right? Apologies for anyone coming from Facebook if I didn't answer your questions earlier. Once again, severely overloaded with comments and a lot of people asking individual inquiries for like which cities are getting what wind and whatnot. Will not be able to answer those 100%. Just as a huge heads up right now, that there's no confusion there. We need 267 followers to hit 30,000, hopefully by tomorrow. It's going to be real close. Been sending out page invites like it's no man's business over the last few days. So if you follow Puget Sound Stormwatch on Facebook, do be sure to send out page invites to your friends. It would do me a huge, huge favor in the long run. Yeah, thank you to the new subscribers. We just recently got up to 1.11K. 1,110 subscribers on YouTube, so thank you all so much again for that. Still a pretty good number of you hanging around at the moment, so thank you for staying tuned in. Let's go over the progression of the system one more time in detail. This is what it looks like currently. You notice there's these straight contours here, and then you get these kinks right here. This is the center of low pressure and the associated cold front beginning to form here. As we go on through the afternoon time, it starts to move closer, but you notice it's still not quite developed yet. But it does develop these cyclone characteristics later tonight, as it's a couple hundred miles southwest of our coast. And it starts to become more organized immediately offshore. And then this is when it could sneak up on us. This is why I've called it a sneaker for the last 24 to 36 hours or so, because it could sneak up on us and deepen farther than it shows on the models. You know, placement and strength is going to be everything with this. This is why it is detrimental to the wind forecast if something goes completely haywire here with the model guidance. We got to be very, very careful with this. Yeah, like Sonia said, thank you to our subs. We greatly appreciate your support. Huge shout out goes to Sonia for being a great moderator on this YouTube channel. She helps things run real smoothly around here. You know, I was quite surprised to see that a lot of SurfPro subdivisions around here are now following me on on Facebook. And SurfPro is a pretty large cleanup company around these parts too, so I was interested to see them on my page. Who knows, maybe they'll offer a sponsorship in the future. Yeah, I am currently actively looking for sponsorships, though. You know, with times being tight right now and us going into a more difficult time of the year, definitely looking for sponsors. Wonder if the Canadian shows this any better. I don't normally use the high resolution Canadian for these forecasts, but it shows around the same thing for tomorrow morning, right around the 1002 millibar low making landfall. Would probably be a similar story for these areas. Let me switch this over to gusts real quick. Tara says, thanks for coverage. Thank you for tuning in to the coverage. Wouldn't be able to do this without everyone watching right now. The Canadian is much less robust on winds around here. It mainly has the strongest winds up here over Everett. But the rest of us are pretty mild with the high-res Canadian model. It's currently one of the outliers for wind coverage out here right now. So that's why one reason I don't normally use the high-res Canadian. I normally use the NAM and the HRRR for my wind gust predictions. Yeah, this is what the NAM 3. This is the 5 km, but still the NAM infrastructure. This is what the North American mesoscale model is showing for our area. A lot of 40s to 50s across much of this area. 50 miles per hour off the coast too. Strongest winds would be out of the south with that cold front passing through earlier tomorrow afternoon, later in the morning. Huge shout out goes to Julie Olson. Thank you for donating a coffee. Much appreciated. If anybody watching right now would like to do me a favor, possibly buy me a coffee as a birthday present, feel free to look at the site I just posted in the comments here. A huge shout out. Thank you, Julie Olson, for your donation of another coffee. Yeah, really interested to see what the HRRR is showing for this time, though. Because the HRRR shows really strong wind gusts over this area. Like, really strong. We're talking over 50 miles per hour for much of the interior here. Anything in the dark purple and blue contour here is 50 to 60. That's what the HRRR 3KM is showing and has been showing for the last few runs. Tara says, hello, hoping this doesn't verify. We have family photos on Sunday. Yeah, it would be interesting to have widespread power outages literally the day after Halloween. Wind did now. Yeah, it's a matter of where this thing tracks and how strong it will be when it tracks inland. There's still a lot of short-term discrepancy on just how strong this little sneaker wave will be when it makes landfall. Even kind of appears to have a steam jet-like feature in this, too. Looks like I'll be up early on my birthday watching the satellite. Seeing if we have a well-defined steam jet across this area. Yeah, south to southwesterly gusts across much of the Puget Sound. Mainly out of the west when the backside of that feature comes in. And then screaming wind gusts down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. In some areas over the Dungeness Spit, for example. I go back to that last frame, has nearly 60 miles per hour for the Dungeness Spit. Actually surprised they didn't include this immediate area of Sequim and Port Angeles in the wind advisory, based on what I'm seeing from this westerly surge here. Tara says, happy birthday. Yeah, a little over 6 hours, around 6.5 hours, it will be happy birthday for me. Yeah, hopefully your photo shoot goes well. Hopefully it shouldn't be too damp. It's more so the wind I'm worried about for that area. But the HRRR model has the strongest winds peaking between 11 a.m. and noon tomorrow. That's just what this guidance is showing right here. If that were to verify, then yikes. That's all I can say, is yikes. Hopefully not, though. At the same time, if it doesn't verify, I'm about to get a lot of flack from a lot of people here on Facebook. Hoping for leaves on trees still. That would definitely help the scenery, wouldn't it? Ooh, both my knees just went. That felt nice. So yeah, in case you might have missed it earlier, we have wind advisories and flood watches in effect for our area. Wind advisories going into effect tomorrow for all of the red highlighted areas. Apologies if it's hard to see. You might be able to see it better here on this interactive map. But most of Western Washington, not including the Cascades, not including Western Whatcom County, the Olympics, the Strait of Juan de Fuca region here, and the San Juan Islands. Everywhere else is in this wind advisory tomorrow, just at different times. But most of the areas are between 9 to 2 or 9 to 5 tomorrow, just based on your proximity. We also have this flood watch in effect for 5 different counties as well. Mainly for the Skokomish River near Potlatch, which could just barely hit minor flood stage this weekend. Other area rivers could get close to flood stage, but will likely get into action stage, which is just a hair below flood stage. This is mainly for the Skokomish, Snoqualmie, Snohomish, Skykomish, Stillaguamish, Skagit, and Nooksack rivers. In all of the counties highlighted here. But this does not include any Pierce, Thurston, or Lewis County rivers right now. And I believe they will not expand that. Yeah, this is from late tonight through late Saturday night, although the warning text showed it from sometime tomorrow morning to the next morning after that. So I was a little confused on that, but I believe this much more than that one, saying late tonight through late tomorrow night. So flood watch and wind advisories in effect. And you see here, there's actually 5 different wind advisories in effect right now. Some of them will be allowed to expire, some of them will be replaced, and some of them are going to be new just for tomorrow. Looks like there was a new forecast discussion released about an hour ago too, so we can go over those details as well right now. How about we do that? An atmospheric river moving into the area tonight into Saturday will bring moderate to heavy rain and gusty winds to western Washington. Stronger systems look to impact the region mid to late week for additional rounds of rain and winds. A front will stall over the area tonight, and another strengthening low pressure system will move across the area on Saturday. That's the little sneaker low pressure system we've been talking about. Some of my front yard at my parents' house is underwater. Yeah, Tara, don't you love how the forecast zones are split up? It was actually much harder to decipher individual areas before the National Weather Service in Seattle remapped their zones. They added more zones, but I think they should have split them quite a bit further down. Like to specific cities, perhaps. But I'm not going to doubt what they're doing there at the office. Especially nowadays, you know, they're not getting paid to do any of this. Sorry guys, my ring notifications are going absolutely rampant here right now. Seeing a lot of comments as well on Facebook. Once my lights turn on over at the other house, I'm going to turn them over to Halloween mode. So yeah, anyways, back to the forecast discussion. A few locally higher amounts to 5 inches will be possible in the mountains. Areas across the interior lowlands will likely see anywhere from 1 to 2 inches. More rain shadow locations like Admiralty Inlet and Salish Sea, resulting in slightly less rainfall. It does mention a convergence zone developing tomorrow afternoon. It says we'll need to monitor the setup and convective nature of the convergence zone should it fall over Stevens Pass or any sensitive burn scars. So who knows, could get some flash flooding over some of those burn scars, including the Bolt Creek burn scar near Skykomish. You guys remember that huge fire back in September and October 3 years ago that socked a lot of our area in smoke for over a month. Latest REFS HREF ensemble guidance indicates roughly a 30 to 60% chance of wind gusts exceeding 40 miles per hour for areas south of Skagit County. Wind advisories remain in effect for the strong winds tonight, and additional advisories have been posted for much of the area for Saturday. And it does say here, localized power outages and tree damage will be possible tomorrow. So if the NWS is saying it, you better believe it. Also talking about high surf too. There are high surf advisories now in effect for the Washington coast. Large waves will build towards 16 to 20 feet along the coast, a period of around 15 to 17 seconds. Large waves may run further up the area beaches and could cause localized beach erosion. Brief break in the weather is possible on Tuesday. Though it says Wednesday into Thursday hints at a stronger system moving into the area, and also we'll be watching for coastal flooding potential with the king tides coming in too. So wouldn't be surprised to hear some coastal flood advisories going into effect midweek for some of those areas along the coast. Have gale warnings in effect for the Strait of Juan de Fuca, Northern Inland Waters, Admiralty Inlet, and the coast. Doesn't look like we'll hit storm speeds though. Does say forecast quantitative precipitation has increased this afternoon. The northern central Cascades, so they bumped up the rainfall amounts possible for the mountains. It says the Snoqualmie, Skykomish, Snohomish, and Skagit could reach action stage later Saturday into the night. But that doesn't mean flood stage, just means action stage. And then the huge list of advisories right now. See here, 5 different wind advisories and the flood watch. And there's so many different gale warnings and small craft advisories for the area waters as well. Yes, Oscar's wife, welcome in. Any flooding in the area? Possibly, it's too soon to say right now. Your area, I'm not sure exactly where that region is near 101, but if it's in Mason County, it's possible. But anywhere else outside of Mason County, it's not looking likely at this time. Matt Craig asks, why do we get winds more at night than day? Why do we get heavy winds? I guess it's purely just coincidence that we get these systems more at night than the day. You know, I believe that most of 1962 and 1993 during those storm systems, most of the winds were during the day, but I know Hanukkah Eve was during the night. January of 2019 was also during the night, and this last windstorm was during the night. I like to say coincidence because it doesn't have any influence from, like, for example, landmass temperatures or sea surface temperatures. You know, these mid-latitude cyclones are more so powered off of what's called vorticity in the air, which is a Coriolis-induced spin in the atmosphere. You know, it's not fueled from sea surface temperatures like a hurricane or typhoon. It's a completely different setup than those. Oh, Pacific County, okay. So that would be the National Weather Service in Portland office. Let me see if they have anything in effect down there right now. They have a high surf advisory for the North Coast, and it looks like that's it. No other wind or flood alerts at this time. Could also be the weather pattern, yes. High, low pressure, cold. Are you asking, like, the correlation between the pressures in the cold air? Normally during the summer, high pressure is associated with warm and dry air, while low pressure is associated with cooler and moist air. But it kind of flip-flops during the winter. The higher pressure that comes in is normally associated with Arctic air masses out of the north. So normally colder and drier in the winter, and low pressure is warmer and moist in the winter. But if we get the low pressure to come in at just the right angle, just the right time, we can bring in a modified Arctic air mass in from Canada and get snow events around here. But it doesn't happen too often. You know, we don't normally talk about lowland snow events. Starting to get dark outside, so I wouldn't be surprised if the trick-or-treaters start coming around very soon. North River dumps into the Chehalis River. Okay. So, yeah, we're not expecting any flooding along those rivers right now. Looks like it's mainly north of Pierce County, not including Pierce County. Go refresh winds real quick. I think that station might have stopped reporting in Oak Harbor. We had 30 miles per hour again between North Bend and Snoqualmie. See that 81 from earlier? Max is actually 83 at Camp Muir, Mount Rainier. I'm going to go back to current satellite imagery, and I'm actually going to go replace the battery in my doorbell real quick for trick-or-treaters. So I'm going to leave this screen on real quick. I'll be right back. I got to go switch batteries out. Thanks everyone for your patience. I am back. Current satellite and radar overlay right now. Heavy rain over the Kitsap Peninsula, moving from southwest to northeast. Just went outside, raining pretty heavily in the Milton area right now. Definitely a good time to have the rain jackets on if you're outside trick-or-treating. Then this is the atmospheric river, extending all the way over into the Pacific, way down here. Randy Small is on YouTube Live, okay? Thank you for letting me know. That he is. See, you're on there also, Keith. But yeah, our next little low pressure system is somewhere right in here right now. It still hasn't really fully developed yet. It's not going to fully develop until it's right off the coast. That's why these little sneakers sometimes can be problematic. We had one of these back in January of 2021 that brought 60 mile per hour wind gusts for the Federal Way area. 61 was recorded at an official Federal Way site. That's why these little sneakers can be a big deal sometimes. I am in Milton, yes. I live just within Milton city limits in Pierce County. If we go back to windy, it's right in here where that little kink in the flow is. Yeah, somewhere right in this area here, you can start to see a little bit of a spin up in here. That little kink in the jet stream is going to be where this little storm system starts to begin forming. How far from me? I consider myself to be in one of those good areas of the South Sound. But yeah, I'm right up on the hill here where Milton and Edgewood are. Look at that heavy rain right over the Kitsap Peninsula right now. Just in time for trick-or-treating to begin around this area. It's going to be a super soaker here in Seattle very soon. Live in Graham, work in Sumner. Small world after all, isn't it? The heaviest of rain is coming in here real shortly for most of our area. See if any new models have started running yet. See, so the 23Z HER is fully initialized now. See what it shows. We should just be within the range of gusts around this area. Zoom in just a tad bit to see what this entails. So yeah, there's the frontal feature right there, but it's not quite within the range yet. We have to wait for the 0Z to come out. It does already show some areas hitting over 40 miles per hour here in the North Sound. It shows around 45 to 50 for Everett. Like just outside of where this 33 mile per hour little area is right there. Live close to Stillicum. Creek is on my property. Raining pretty good now. Yep. Sorry guys, for some reason when I sit down to do these streams, I get all sorts of hiccups as I'm trying to stream. It never fails. Yeah, this her model has backed off a little bit, but then again, we're not all the way out to noon yet. It could pick up here ahead of this cold front in the next couple hours after that run. So gotta wait for the 0Z to initialize to be within that range. It shows pretty similar story to the ones before. Strong winds starting over the coast early in the morning and then gradually spreading inland from west to east. The winds should be mainly out of the south or southwest across these areas. But yeah, that's the overall synopsis for what's coming up. Still probably an hour and a half out from having the 0Z NAM render. Follower count starting to go up again. We need one last push to get up to 30K tonight. Yeah, for reference, this is what the recent NAM 3 cam is showing, the 18Z. Showing widespread areas of 40 to 50 miles per hour across much of the Puget Sound tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's still showing us in the 40 mile per hour range as early as 9 a.m., so could have a few hours of these gusty winds around here before that system passes through. But if you're north of Everett, expect that westerly surge to pick up behind that front, and then a convergence zone should form somewhere between Seattle and Everett and sink south as the night goes on. Then we get a small break before that next system is expected to creep up sometime on November 3rd or November 4th. Matt Craig says, I had 50 of my friends start following you. Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for your generosity. I need 256 people to get to that mile marker by tomorrow. Just need one last push to get to that point. Probably make one more post before the night's over, and then that should be it from me for October. Still hanging around 20 viewers, so much better viewership than last night. Go look at closer details here on the 18Z Euro. Because this only shows wind gusts every 6 hours, so it shows a 6-hour average. It has continued to decrease the averages a little bit as time goes on. It's been pretty variable around the area. See, Tacoma's been bouncing around that 30 to 40 mark for some time as well. Like to save the rapid fire pics as a screensaver. Some are quite beautiful. Yeah, if you're talking about from the rapid fire update channel on Facebook, yeah, a lot of those radar images I post are for the textbooks. Like those atmospheric... No, those convergence zone images from a few weeks ago where we had the thunderstorms over southern Snohomish County that Ben was chasing. Yeah, those are definitely for the textbooks, for sure. All right, Matt Craig is out. Have a good night. Happy Halloween. We'll talk to you next time. Take care and best of luck to you with the wind tomorrow. Hoping it's not as bad as the models show. So yeah, this is what the European shows for peak timing tomorrow. Doesn't show as much for the area between 11 and 5, but it does for 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. around much of the area. It is backed off a bit here in the Puget Sound area, but the high-resolution models have definitely kicked it up into overdrive. So will the high-res models prevail, or will the almighty European continue its reign of supremacy? Yes, on the 25th. Oh boy. See, these isobars are every 2 millibars, so that would be 1008, 1006, 1004. It has something around 1002 millibars moving into the Salish Sea. Would definitely be enough of a gradient to really pick up these southerly and southwesterly winds across the area. See, there's about a 6 millibar gradient between Thurston County and Clallam County here, which is more than favorable to pick up the gusts quite a bit. Sparky1, welcome back. My location has never seen 36 mile per hour gusts in over 17 years. You're one of the lucky ones. And Melissa, just subscribed to you. Thank you, Melissa, for being a viewer. And welcome to the Puget Sound Stormwatch crew. Much appreciated. It's going over live coverage right now on the forecast winds for tomorrow and what the different forecast models have to show for this area, because each one of them shows a slightly different solution than one another. European shows 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts for our area, but the high resolution models are up more towards 40 to 50, and some close to 55 for this area too. Like the 18Z per 3 km is pretty intense around this area. Instead of that 6 millibar gradient over that distance on the European, this has an 8 millibar gradient over a shorter distance, which would really, really intense. See, between the North Grays Harbor coast near Taholah and down here in Tillamook County, that is a whopping 10 millibar gradient there, if that were to verify. That is huge. At 2 p.m., it looks like if you leave at 2 p.m., you might be safe from the strongest winds, but if you need to be there by 2 p.m., you might have a run-in with some of these strong wind gusts. And yeah, this is what the 18Z HER was showing, and I can't wait to see what the 0Z HER shows for this area. This was the 11 a.m. model run of the high-resolution rapid refresh, or HER, or HRRR as some people call it. So it shows widespread 45 to as high as 55 mile per hour wind gusts for much of the central Puget Sound ahead of this cold front with that storm system coming in. This would be a really intense blow to most of this area. Not quite as strong in some isolated areas as last Saturday, but definitely up there with some areas that did get wind gusts on Saturday. So definitely expecting widespread power outages Saturday morning and afternoon if this solution were to verify. I think this is probably one of the reasons why the NWS put out that wind advisory when they did. I'm seeing a lot of the big local weather people are really getting on this setup now too. Alright, looks like Randy's done streaming. Whatcom County weather. Waiting to see if Michael starts a stream. I know Ben's streaming the radar and satellite loop right now, but he's not actually streaming the live coverage. But if Michael starts streaming, then we might have to migrate that way, depending on how that does turn out. Yeah, Ben's channel just got reapproved for the YouTube Partner Program too, which is the goal that I'm trying to head towards next. It's where you can allow channel memberships and super chats for live streams. Not quite sure if I want to do memberships quite yet because I have so many different subscriber programs going right now too, such as Patreon and Facebook subscribers. I don't want to have to add another one for people to access, you know what I mean? Because I feel like that's ripping people off. Still a little on the fence about that. I guess we'll see as the time gets closer because I'm still about 1,200 watch hours or so out from being eligible for the YouTube Partner Program. The 1,300 watch hours that I got last Saturday was a really huge jump in the right direction. Got me over that halfway point to get to that point. So thank you guys who watched last Saturday's stream. All like at max 450 of you at one time. That was really incredible to see. We streamed for 8.5 hours that night. And that's longer than a work shift. But it was worth it. Melissa says, since I am new and just discovered this, TJ says, just join your Patreon. Well, thank you for being a patron. You can, of course, you can join as a free member for the free blog posts, which I cross post from Facebook. Or you also have a 7-day free trial for the Intro Forecaster subscription tier, where I post more in-depth and longer range forecasts, such as what could be coming sometime around the November 3rd, November 4th timeframe. But once we're done with this, I'll be posting more on the next upcoming storm system, expected sometime around the night of November 3rd or morning of November 4th. Details are still a little bit unclear because the European backed off of that solution when we had something lined up for a couple days. Seems like they want to pull that storm a bit farther south now, but if it comes back up north, then we could be talking yet another windstorm in just 3 days' time. Mrs. G says, good evening all. Hello, Mrs. G. Welcome in. But TJ, thank you for joining Patreon. Lisa says, I want memberships to get fun custom emojis. Yeah, that's one thing as well. I would mainly do memberships just for the additional videos, like the video tutorials, for example, or like in-depth extended forecast reviews as well. But I don't want to rip off people who are already subbed on Facebook or following on Patreon too, you know? But like Michael does, he has a huge following on Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. He has channel memberships, multiple tiers going up to as high as like $13 a month, which I think is too much personally. And also several tiers on Patreon simultaneously. But you know, people go crazy for that stuff. But I just don't feel like it would be fair to you guys. Yeah, the emojis would be cool. I would start it at a pretty low price, something like around $1.99 to $2.99 per month. But nothing any higher than that. When I set the Facebook subscriber initial cost to $1.99 per month, I had people complaining to me that it was too much. So I cut it in half, and the complaints thankfully stopped. And I now have, get this exact number of 67 subscribers on Facebook who donate 99 cents a month. So thank you all who have subscribed on Facebook. But anyways, I still haven't answered Melissa's question. I am so sorry about that. Just discovered this. How often do you live stream? I normally live stream during critical weather updates like this. So I want to get into a habit of live streaming at least once a week to just go over weather happenings and give the audience a chance to chime in and ask their questions that they need to have asked. I also occasionally live stream on Facebook, but I've specifically limited that to every 1,000 follower mile marker. The last week or so, though, we've gone through those mile markers so quickly, I haven't actually had enough downtime really between weather events to go into live coverage on Facebook. And now that Facebook is deleting your live streams after 30 days and starting to push more vertical content, it's just not really favorable to live stream to Facebook. And it costs to simulcast to Facebook and YouTube at the same time a little more than I'm willing to pay right now. So I'd rather just stream to one, and that would be YouTube preferably. Really trying to build the watch hours behind this gig to start to get some of those additional stream benefits in for you guys to take advantage of. TJ says last weekend was awesome. For some people, yes. It was awesome if you're a weather nerd, but if you're a normal person who lost power for several days and threw away your groceries as a result of that, then not awesome. I really feel for those people. You know, it's unfortunate that they had to go through that. Mark said, where is this windstorm going? Hello, Mark, and welcome back. Right now, it looks like it's moving from southwest to northeast. If we go back to windy, the windstorm that we're looking at for tomorrow is currently forming somewhere down in this area right here, where you see that little kink in the cloud cover there. This is going to rapidly start developing tonight and tomorrow morning just off the coast, and that's why it's extremely tricky to get these forecasts right. So I'm stressing the importance of being prepared for this, because it could come in much stronger than forecast and give last Saturday a run for its money. That's the ceiling. What's the floor? It could be a bust entirely and not bring any wind to us. But right now, the current track does have it on a crash course with the La Push area, if it follows from southwest to northeast with the atmospheric river. And that heaviest of rain is just now moving into the Olympia to Everett corridor too, just as a heads up for anyone planning to go out. Yeah, vertical content is gross. I'm not really a fan of YouTube Shorts when it comes to vertical content. Keith says, I'm taking free online classes of meteorology. That's a great idea to really understand a lot of this. There's also a lot of textbooks out there that you could read as well. I think Michael was talking about this on his stream last night. You know, he actually originally was going to go into the meteorology field, but instead turned to the aviation field. So he has the background of studying meteorology, but he's not a degreed certified meteorologist, if that makes sense. His degree is in aviation. It would most likely miss Nanaimo to the south. Yes, the strongest winds would be on the south end of the cyclone when it comes through, which is going to move through somewhere along the Salish Sea, just southeast of Victoria. So Nanaimo would likely miss out on the strongest wind gusts. TJ says, meant your coverage was awesome. I lost my power for 30 hours. Okay, yeah, that... a lot of places got significant damage to their transmission lines. I was pretty impressed to hear that the 115 kilovolt towers actually sustained quite a bit of damage down in Thurston County. That's why it took so long to get a bunch of power on down there. Currently, the atmospheric river is parked over our area, just in time. Just turned 6 o'clock, and here comes the heaviest of rain from Olympia all the way up towards Everett. So if you're trick-or-treating along the I-5 corridor between Seattle and Olympia right now, get ready because the heaviest is still on the way. Looks like the heaviest of rain has moved out of Bellingham and points from Everett up north to Bellingham. Light showers possible as the night goes on, but the heaviest of rain looks to be done up there for right now. I also see my post getting shared to a lot of large groups too. This is interesting. Someone shared one of my posts to a Ukrainians in Seattle group. Not too often I see any diverse ethnic groups get these weather forecasts. That's really, really cool to see. A lot of other larger groups, over 10,000 members as well, getting the information. So yeah, thank you guys for choosing Puget Sound Stormwatch. Yeah, I know a lot of you guys follow multiple people too, but thank you for showing a lot of support to Puget Sound Stormwatch and the people in their community as well. Means a lot, guys. Truly. Thank you so much. We got pounded earlier in Ladysmith. They're saying 29 miles per hour for Ladysmith. It'll certainly get that breezy up in the Nanaimo area here along the Strait of Georgia. We're not expecting anything much higher than 30 to 35 miles per hour. You know, nothing that you wouldn't see on a normal fall day during a normal fall storm system. It's points south of there that have the most concern right now. You see some of these areas of convection here ahead of the storm system too. We should start to see a cold front form within the storm here the next couple of hours. Definitely somewhere in this little cloud break here is where that cyclone is going to try to develop. I'm glad to see a lot of people taking this seriously, though. I've seen a handful of comments saying, you know, it's just fall and it's just October, it's just November, nothing out of the ordinary. You know, the truth is, I wouldn't have anything to post if I didn't post any of that. And a lot of people actually do take these seriously because they have farm animals, they have kids, things to do outside. People that take the post seriously. So really, really good to see the people actually take it seriously. Because there's been a lot of ignorance going around on Facebook recently, if it wasn't too obvious. I'm just happy I haven't had to issue any bans recently, knock on wood. But at one point, with all of the heat advisories going out and the excessive, or what they call now the extreme heat warnings this summer, I did have to issue quite a few ban hammers to people. You know, because they were posting vulgar language and personal attacks against me and so on. It was really, really uncalled for. Like people calling the page trash, for example. It's just not okay. It looks like Jonathan Poley posted a video to West Coast Weather on YouTube. You guys want to check out West Coast Weather on YouTube, Whidbey Island Local. Jonathan Poley just posted that. And it looks like Mike posted a video update instead of a live stream as well. Lisa appreciates the information. Thank you. Kay Lorraine came in late. What's the wind expectation for Shelton? Very glad you asked and welcome into the stream. If what the HER 3KM is saying is correct, and it looks like it just started to render the 0Z. Sorry guys, hiccups again. It's only out to 12 hours, so it doesn't cover the event yet. But the most recent 18Z HER has quite a strong blow to the Shelton area. Shelton is approximately right around where those coordinates are right there. This would have 50 miles per hour at noon tomorrow. 52 at 11, 51 at 10, and 46 at 9. So it has winds sharply picking up around 7 a.m. and then really picking up quickly by noon. And it hangs on for a couple of hours after that, but then gradually starts to die down in the afternoon. So this is just one model though, but do be aware it does show the possibility of 50 plus for Shelton. Other models are similar. Some are down in the 35 to 45 mile per hour range, but this would definitely be the ceiling of the event. And I'd like to communicate this just in case. You know, it shows sort of a steam jet feature like we saw on Saturday, albeit a little weaker, making landfall somewhere between Westport and Long Beach here. Somewhere in the Willapa Bay, possibly. If that were to move up into the area, that could bring some strong winds to the South Sound. For sure. Yeah, see, it's a pretty quick moving windstorm, thankfully. But yeah, the big story tonight is rain. And the heaviest of rain is just moving into the I-5 corridor between Seattle and Olympia right now. Perfect timing for that. But the heaviest of rain is starting to move out of Shelton right now. And then we'll be watching that storm system developing in the back end of this atmospheric river. It's currently somewhere where this cloud opening is right here. So eventually this is going to develop a counterclockwise spin in the low-level flow here. And it's really going to grow in strength immediately off the coast. That's why these things are tricky. That's why I have to communicate the floor and the ceiling of the event. Because we don't know which one it's going to be until right as it happens. It's like we're getting a little bit closer to the 30K goal on Facebook. We're now within 250. So we're at 29,754 followers. We need 246 to get to 30K. Hoping to get there by tomorrow. That would be the greatest birthday present of all time for me. Yeah, guys, if you haven't already on Facebook, go ahead and share Puget Sound Stormwatch with your friends. It would do me a massive favor in the long run. Yeah, what Keith said, these are very tricky, like you said, it can go either way. We had a similar setup back in January of 2021 where one of these sneakers came in behind an atmospheric river. And what did it do? It produced a 61 mile per hour wind gust in Northern Federal Way. That's why, you know, we have to keep eyes on this. It doesn't always go as the models show. Like on Saturday, no model showed that 66 mile per hour gust at Tacoma Narrows. That was a complete and utter anomaly. It took out the power to most of the Key Peninsula down there as well. You know, Peninsula Light Company was really busy. Kay says, thank you. A tip for power outage prep is to freeze a gallon jug or so of water prior to storms. Helps keep freezer cold or ready for putting in your cooler. That is a great tip. Yeah, definitely something plastic. You don't want anything aluminum like a can that can blow up upon expansion. I've seen that happen firsthand numerous times. Yeah, I've heard another good tip is to fill up the bathtub as well, just in case. But if you need to take a shower, it's not very ideal for you. Just in the long run, if something does happen, like a huge higher end event, then that would be of good advice to take, for sure. Thanks, guys. We're over 300 views and at 32 likes on the stream. If you guys like the stream, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, and share to your friends so we can have larger streams like this in the future. Hoping to keep this up full time, but you know, the pocket's getting pretty tight, so may have to make decisions that will make me step down from full-time coverage here just to keep a roof over my head and food in my stomach, you know. I was pretty distraught to hear that the food stamp coverage ends tomorrow for a lot of people, but I don't want to get too much on the political side, so I'm going to leave it at that. You know, one thing I take pride in with this page is not sharing political content. Looks like people are going out trick-or-treating. We lost about 10 viewers in the last few minutes or so. Keith, is that a current number right now for PSC? DJ says, I hope we can keep you going here, Anthony. I do hope so as well. And it's nice to have support from tens of thousands of people from around Western Washington and other areas too. You know, I have family over in Indiana that follows my page. I've seen people from Canada follow, Eastern Washington, Oregon, some Californians also following. There was even like a 0.1% of my audience from Nigeria too. That was when I was a much smaller page, like around 15,000 followers. Now I've nearly doubled that. Just incredible. Keith says, yes, it is. 16 active outages. Thank you, Keith, for the update. I have not checked any of the PUD sites yet for the area. I noticed too, a little too late, when I was checking the PUD sites during the last windstorm, I never checked Seattle City Light. You know, I missed the clear as day one across the Central Sound. I was checking PSC, TPU, and Snow PUD, but I never once checked Seattle City Light. So yeah, we'll keep tabs on this area right here because that is most likely where that spin up's going to occur. That's where that little sneaker storm is going to form. Not quite seeing any evidence of a counterclockwise turn yet, though. But soon it will get to that point. Well, looks like we've hit the apex of the viewership tonight, folks. Because we've dipped below 15 viewers for the first time, like, since around the time the stream first started. Yeah, we got up past 15 around 425. Then we've been in the 20 to 35 range since then, and we just dipped back below 15. The first time in about 2 hours. I'm guessing that means it's time to go trick-or-treating, am I right? That's why I wanted to target this live stream a little bit earlier on in the afternoon so that I could get the word out before people started trick-or-treating. Looks like that was the right move, I'd say. Lisa says, stay safe and dry, everyone. And yes, Sonia, thank you, Keith, for the info on outages. Yeah, thank you very much on that, Keith. I haven't been up to date on the outages yet today. We haven't had much wind around the area. It's mainly been over the susceptible areas, the open waters up here, which I think some of that is covered by PSE. PSE covers Whidbey, am I right? Does PSE cover Whidbey Island? Feel free to get back to me on that one if you know off the top of your head. Keith says, yep, we're getting trick-or-treaters now. All right, well, if you bounce out, Keith, feel free to say goodnight. I will completely understand. I unfortunately am not passing out candy this year. It's just, I unfortunately want to put my money towards other things like keeping the roof over my head to keep doing this. So I'm making the sacrifices where they're necessary. Let me just make sure. I want to make sure my lights are turned on at my house down the street, at my mom's house. And I want to make sure that they're in Halloween mode. I'm going to do that right now, and hopefully everything turned over. Yeah, it looks like it worked. My stepdad just texted me saying that freaked me out because I just hit a button and it changed all the lights. I was like, surprise. Anita Hughes on Facebook just said, thank you for the info. I recently started following you. I get better info from you than what my phone gives me. Again, thank you. New order in the shop, is that right? Well, thank you very much, whoever ordered from the Puget Sound Stormwatch store. The second official order. And also, again, thank you, TJ, if you're still watching, for becoming a new trial member for the Intro Forecaster tier on Patreon. And, of course, huge thank you to Julie Olson, if you're still watching as well, for the $5 coffee tip. All right, Sonia, does that mean that you're going to bounce out very soon? My roommate is giving out candy. I have packing to do for my move. Once again, guys, let me refresh this real quick. It does show the 66th copy. Okay, TJ is still here. Thank you again, TJ, for your support. Yeah, it's a 7-day free trial, so if you feel like going back on it, then feel free to. No hard feelings. Completely understand. Once again, if you guys appreciated the coverage and would like to donate a quick little early birthday gift, consider donating a coffee. They start out at $5, so a lot of people have done them in combos, though, up to 5 coffees at once. But yeah, feel free. Huge shout out to the leaderboard as well. Diana Stevens at number 1, Lady Blue at 2, Jen at 3. We have 22 unique supporters. Couldn't be able to do this without you guys. So once again, not a requirement, but if you feel like it and want to wish me a happy birthday, that's one way to do so. I believe we had a record around $140 in coffees bought last Saturday. Like all-time donation record here. TJ says, my pleasure. Sonia says, nope, Anthony, I can do packing and moderating at the same time. All right, that's the spirit. Thank you, Sonia. That is the spirit. Yeah, we're really just, we're eyeballing this area very closely right now because this is where that low pressure area could really start to consolidate pretty quickly. Yeah. Starting to get a little bit of development here if we switch back to the windy map for our surface level winds. Start to see it's starting to develop some cyclone characteristics. Although it hasn't really gotten that counterclockwise low level flow quite yet. But it is definitely in there and it is starting up. Somewhere within this general area right here, we're watching for that little sneaker wave to form. Keith says the rain died down in Bellingham. Yeah, the heaviest of rain has long since moved behind you. It's currently along the I-5 corridor between Seattle and Olympia right now. Some heavy rain over the Willapa Hills also. Heaviest of rain is just crossing into Tacoma right now. All the way up through Seattle. Second round of rain coming for Seattle here in the next hour or so. Yeah, this is just a current look at the radar right now. This is radar combined with satellites. The sun's about to set on that storm off the coast, so we won't be able to see it in clear detail until the sun starts rising tomorrow. We can still use windy to determine almost exactly where the low pressure center is and approximate where it's going to move. But not a single model completely 100% nailed. Oh, might be. Oh, you know, actually, my Echo here also gives me updates when people ring my front doorbell at my mom's house. So it looks like they're getting their first trick-or-treater right now. So unfortunately, if it keeps ringing, it's just something that we're going to have to get used to. But that did startle me. I don't know if you guys saw me jump there for a second. Yeah, they just got their first trick-or-treaters of the night down the street. It's here in Olympia Mud Bay area. Thank you, TJ, for your report. It was unfortunate they had to cross into the yard to get across, but I'm not going to complain about that. Kids will be kids. Has opted to not put up any serious Halloween decorations this year. It may be Debbie Downer, but I just knew that the weather was going to be inclement during this time and I didn't want to risk it. Christmas may be a different story, though. Guess it really depends on how much this brand really starts to take off over the next couple of months. Sadly, still not enough to fully pay the bills, but it's in the demo. It's in the demonstration phase right now, the demo phase. Keith says we had about 7 kids so far. Yeah, I think a lot of people are just discouraged by the rain, you know, because can't really remember the last time the rain was this heavy during Halloween Eve. I know some shower years and a lot of dry years, but not really the heavy pouring rain variety. The strongest of rain is just about to cross over the Puget Sound right now. So it's on the way. If you're south of Seattle, the heaviest is on the way. It's not quite here yet. Looks like, yeah, audience still hanging around 15 people, bouncing around quite a bit. Thank you who have continued to view. Hanging around 15, 33 likes on the stream, a little over 330 views right now. Looks like next round of trick-or-treaters coming up. Wife is handing out candy. Just checking my cameras to make sure every single light that I switched over is working. Sometimes the Wi-Fi lights that I use don't get the signal the first time, but it looks like everything worked out just fine. Yeah, every year for the holidays, I run my Wi-Fi lights outside on a different pattern. Like, of course, Halloween for this time around, I'll run them for Christmas as well in conjunction with all of my Christmas lights I hang up. So maybe the first year that I may not hang up Christmas lights over at my parents' house because this is my first Christmas being out of the house. And just as a little refresher, systems beginning to organize, the one that we're watching tomorrow for wind, somewhere in this general area right here. Currently have flood watches and wind advisories in effect for the area through tomorrow. This is the wind advisory area in red and the flood watch area in red. Certain rivers that they're watching at the moment, mainly the Skokomish near Potlatch, which is the only one forecast to hit flood stage so far. So they're expecting action stage from the Snoqualmie, Snohomish, Skykomish, Stillaguamish, Skagit, and Nooksack, potentially. The 0Zs through 34 hours, so it should be long enough now. Let's go see what the 0Z shows. And I'm impressed. The 0Zs really started to back off on max wind gusts. Still around 40 to 45 for parts of the sound, but it's not showing anything 50 plus anymore. Maybe some good news for those of you who are not a fan of the wind. See, in before's run, the 18Z, that's what it was showing, and go to the same time, and it's significantly less across the area. I'm going to figure out why that is. It might... Two things it could be. Different storm track or weaker storm strength upon approach. Let's find out what it says. It has the strength around the same. Storm track hasn't changed much, so not quite sure what the huge difference is here. Let me go compare the 18Z again real quick. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah. It had it around 1002 millibars, and now it's down to 1004. That'll have the differences. Or up to 1004. That's why. So the strength is still bouncing around, but the track is still on course. That's the difference that it made. So same track, but a little bit weaker with the new 0Z Her 3KM. But still showing a lot of 40 plus around the sound though. Here in the immediate Tacoma area, it has around 43 miles per hour. Has 45 plus for some of the foothill spots near I-90. It's just shy of 40 for the Seattle area and around 40 to 45 for Everett. This is brand new imagery coming off the press right now. Does have us hitting close to 43 miles per hour down in the Tacoma area at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Then once again, it's a pretty short-lived wind event, and it also really knocked down the westerly surge amounts too. Like, no longer seeing anything close to 60 up here. Doesn't even have it getting up towards 40 really that much until about 3 p.m. or so. So huge drastic change with the new Her 3KM model. Maybe in the right direction. Seeing a lot of happy birthday comments come in still. Consider myself lucky to have a really great supporting cast around me. That helps beyond words. I guess we'll open up this time to any FAQ. Not FAQ, but Q&A. So anyone watching right now, if you have any questions, it looks like Tyler Anderson is in the house. Welcome. How about Olympia area? Let me select the approximate pinpoint of Olympia here. This is the new 0Z Her 3KM. Has Olympia getting up to around 41 miles per hour at 11 a.m., but not much more than that. This is according to this new model run. If we compare that to what the 18Z European is saying, this is showing it in 6-hour intervals. This would be between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. around this area. It has the Olympia area around 37 miles per hour for an average wind gust during this time window. 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. tomorrow. So the Her 3KM is closer to what the European is saying here. Keith says, I'm going to get going now. Have a wonderful birthday tomorrow. Thank you, Keith, for stopping by. Always a pleasure. Take care, and happy Halloween to you, my friend. Take it easy. Really wish the European models would develop earlier in the run and not towards the time of the next run. Like the 0Z should start developing at 5 p.m., but it doesn't really start developing until about 10:30 p.m. right before the next run is supposed to initialize. But that's just how the European framework is. So yeah, Olympia's not looking terrible tomorrow. It's been a downtrend compared to previous models. Like for example, this showed a lot of the area getting 40 to 50 on the 12Z Euro, but the 18Z Euro is quite a bit less. So I'll be watching the 0Z Euro like a hawk when it comes out. Just not sure if I want to stay up that late tonight, you know, but my sleep schedule has been wonk with all of these live streams and the weather being so active. You know, I used to be a morning person, but I've turned into more of a night owl again. Like before I was doing my full-time job at Safeway, you know. The herd just took all wins out of Nanaimo. Yeah, I believe it. It sucked the life out of the winds down here on the 18Z. Yeah, the 0Z is pretty anemic for up there on Vancouver Island. 0Z still shows a blustery day for most of us, but not showing anything close to damaging. Although some isolated areas could get up over 50 over the higher terrains, and possibly up through the Kitsap Peninsula and parts of Everett in the foothill locations to the east of the Puget Sound, too. Get up, take a stretch break, and look outside real quick. I'll be right back. This is a good reminder. Always take stretch breaks. Always. Stay hydrated and take stretch breaks. I think the doorbell's about to ring again. My family's house. I see some trick-or-treaters coming up to their house, so be prepared for that little ding-dong sound from the echo. So yeah, not too much for wind gusts at the moment. It doesn't look like they lost power up there because it's reporting a new wind speed of 48 miles per hour up there at Whidbey Nass right now. 48 up there, 43 at Smith Island just west of Oak Harbor. And 37 miles per hour near the Highway 536 and 20 junction just outside of Mount Vernon and Burlington. And 37 miles per hour here along Lake Whatcom. Never mind, looks like they never rang the doorbell. That family had a tiny little infant that was learning to walk. Mark asks, when is the windstorm supposed to start? Looks like around mid-morning, later morning for most of the area. The model guidance currently has winds starting up around 8 a.m. from points southwest to northeast. Along the coast, it starts earlier, sometime around 6 a.m. possibly. And see, it has most of the interior starting to fill in with 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts around the 8 a.m. time window. And continuing on through about 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., depending on your model of choice. Also, the 0Z should be rendering here very soon on the NAM. That's also going to be a crucial model to watch, too. 0Z is already rendering on the NAM 12 km, but not quite the NAM 3 km yet. So that means the NAM 3 km should start rendering here in the next few minutes, hopefully. But it'll be a while before it gets out to that 60-hour marker. What NAM forecast is on windy now? The 18Z NAM should be on windy. So the one from 11 a.m. Difference is windy uses a 5-kilometer format and not the 3-kilometer format, but it still shows very similar results on there. I think windy also uses every 6-hour interval on the HER as well. So it uses the 0Z, 6Z, 12Z, and 18Z, but not the ones in between. They only go out to 18 hours. The 6-hour ones go out to 48. So I believe that's what windy uses for that as well. It means if windy updated, then it should have everything out to the 0Z interval on the HER. Should normally tell you down here too which model run it uses too. At least on the mobile format it does, but I'm not seeing it on the PC format. Normally tell you right down here which model run it uses. But let's see here if it has updated. Let's go, hang on. Let's go to wind gusts right now. Doesn't look like it's updated yet on the windy part. I may just have to refresh. No, I don't think they've updated to the 0Z yet here on windy. I think they're still using 18Z imagery from the HER right now. But the NAM 5KM should be the 18Z imagery right now. We're just starting to get the 0Z to render. Yeah, see, 2 frames on the 3KM right now, the 0Z. So 0Z HER is fully rendered. So that's it on that for the afternoon. Next 48-hour run will be at 11 p.m. tonight, which I hope I'm not up for. Follower counts really slowed down. It must be because of trick-or-treating time. Seeing a lot of official pages like City of Auburn Fire Department, Port of Bremerton followed my page. Packwood Search and Rescue. A lot of government and union pages. You know, ServPro of the Puget Sound area followed the page. There's one with the Olympia firefighters as well. The Olympia Official Firefighter Union. Snoqualmie Valley Food Bank. It was Thurston County Professional Firefighters, IAFF Local 3825. Looks like the word is really getting out there, which is encouraging to see, truly. Very nice, yes, that is correct, TJ. Good to see the word getting out about a potential little short-term windstorm tomorrow. Classy K9 Country Club followed your page. Washington News. That's a small one though. It must. Okay, it's official backup page for Olympia Washington Live, which also follows me. Johnny's Docks Seafood and Grill in Tacoma. So the Johnny's restaurant follows the page. There's some pretty interesting names showing up in the follower list now. Oh, we dipped below 10. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Stream's getting boring. I've already talked about pretty much everything I've needed to talk about. You know, if anyone wants to start any new discussion, feel free. Otherwise, we're probably going to begin to wrap things up here around 7 o'clock. If things go any other way. Does anyone have any questions, whether it's involving the weather or not involving the weather, that they'd like to ask? Sort of get the conversation going. It's going over a lot of my Facebook updates and sending more invites, because a lot of the people reacting to the posts are not actively following Puget Sound Stormwatch at the moment. I bet if everybody accepted their invite over the last few months that I've sent, we'd probably be up to 32, 33,000 followers already. New trick-or-treaters coming up. Warms my heart, truly does. It's the thing about the new pivotal weather site that they're trying. The beta crashes a lot. It does crash a lot. 7 frames on the NAM, so we're getting close. Goes out to midnight right now. Not seeing these wind gusts verify. At least there's still some time for them to verify, but it does show Tacoma getting up over 30 miles per hour. When we go back to current observations, it's nowhere even close to that right now. Painfield did get up to 39 though, so that's a new record on the day for them. They're getting a little breezy up there in the North Sound right now. Otherwise, not much going on around the Puget Sound at this time. The Camp Muir's back up to 72 again, max 83 on the day. Sonia says, after I move and get settled, I need to discuss a few things with you. Is Twitter DM best place to message you? Yeah, a few places you can message me. You can, of course, message the Facebook page directly, which a lot of people do. You could send a Twitter DM, or you could also send an Instagram DM as well. I'm at Milton WA Tech 99 on Twitter, and at Anthony.Croyle on Instagram. My first and last name. It's Anthony.Croyle on Instagram. You can message me on any of those platforms. But yeah, feel free to send me a direct message anytime. Always open. Go and check the progress on this storm real quick. Sun is setting, so it's going to be a little hard to see. But there is a little convection firing up on the eastern side of it. Becoming a little bit more organized, but not anything standing out on visible satellite imagery right now. Eventually, this is going to develop a counterclockwise cyclonic spin very soon, though. Someone just commented hello on my live stream from yesterday. Just a random comment. Okay, Ben is streaming now, so. No, actually, never mind. He's just posted a short update in his costume. That live stream is from the Radar Loop, which I do believe is still going. Looks like he's gonna go live tomorrow morning and afternoon for the windstorm. It looks like Ben's gonna go chase that thing sometime tomorrow. I'm tapped out for tomorrow though, cause you know the birthday is coming up real soon. Just a hair over 5 hours before I turn 26. Crazy realization. Looks like we're hanging around 57 watch hours on this stream so far. Still need a pretty big chunk, so who knows? Depending on how things go, I may do a mobile live stream setup tomorrow, depending on dinner conditions and potentially if the place I'm going even has power tomorrow. But it should. They didn't lose power in the Proctor district of Tacoma, at least the part where my dad lives, last weekend. So they shouldn't, knock on wood, should not lose power this time around. I may have a short little live stream addressing things tomorrow before dinner starts, but we will see. That's going to be very conditional. EJ says, happy birthday. Yeah, just 5 hours and 3 minutes away. Then I can officially say that. It is coming up quicker than I could imagine. Just wish Windy didn't have the problem with ghosting frames so much. The website form of it does have some bugs that hopefully they do iron out with time. It's quite a bit laggy though. When I turned 50, I got a letter from AARP talk about depressing. To each their own, Sonia. To each their own. But I completely understand what you're talking about there. Alright, so looks like the heaviest of rain has moved out of the Puget Sound for now. But some rain also coming again across the Kitsap Peninsula, Key Peninsula, and areas of Gig Harbor for another round of rain, albeit not as heavy, but for the same corridor, another round of rain coming through. We can go ahead and play an animation of the last hour or so for you guys. Mark says, happy birthday. Thank you very much. I was pretty close to being a Halloween baby, rumor has it. At least just stories from the parents saying that I was almost born on Halloween, but my mom held off till the 1st. So yeah, right now, just playing a radar loop from the last hour, showing the rain moving into the area. Apologies for the lagginess. The Windy website client is a little bit buggy. See, the heaviest of rain for tonight, by the looks of it, has already moved through the Tacoma area. But some more moderate to heavy rain showers behind that shortly, crossing over the Key Peninsula at this time. But yeah, after today, all eyes are on tomorrow, and then after that, sometime around the November 3rd timeframe. You know, the European was showing good agreement with the rest of the models for something happening on November 3rd and 4th. But then it decided to pull the system in question well to the south. Let me see if I can zoom out and show you guys what I'm talking about here. So I noticed it was there and then it wasn't. Yeah, see, it pulls it way to the south. It was up north here by Cape Flattery in previous runs, but then it just yanks it to the south and gives that stronger wind to the central Oregon coast. In the 12Z, it was in a much more favorable spot. Not quite favorable for areas north of Seattle, but still in the favorable spot for much of the southwest interior to get strong winds. Not only has it trended south, but also weaker. See, in the 6Z European, it tracked it right through the Puget Sound and would have given us a really, really strong blow the night of November 3rd. Sonia says, I was supposed to be a Thanksgiving baby, but was born the 9th. Yeah, really interesting models guidance showing up here in previous European runs. See, the 6Z agreed pretty closely with the 0Z yesterday, but had it in the same exact spot. See, verbatim the same spot, but a little deeper, which would bring stronger winds in. And has it weaker, but in relatively the same spot in the model run before that. So we did have favorable agreement here for quite some time with this storm system the night of November 3rd. Then it just went into a dumpster fire after the 12Z. You know, the 18Z just yanked it south. I'm trying to see when the 0Z begins rendering tonight, when I look in the morning, will it pull it back up north? Because if so, that will definitely raise some of those red flags for November 3rd into November 4th. You know, November 3rd may be another live stream day if this comes to fruition. So just, you know, be aware of that. I absolutely cannot wait for the 0Z Euro to render. I'm beyond anxious to see what it has to say. Looks like we're getting a brief break from the rain over here in Milton, but the back end of the next round of rain is moving into Tacoma at this time. Why are they saying strong winds on November 5th? Well, the European doesn't show it as clearly, but it does show this atmospheric river on the backside of this next frontal system coming up the coast. But I believe the GFS was the one that was showing the wind activity on the 5th. Unfortunately, the GFS no longer shows the November 3rd event happening at all. Let's see, it still shows that atmospheric river happening on Wednesday the 5th. Does look like there may be, I've been watching this as well, there may be a strong period of winds sometime around the November 9th time frame around here. If this thing tracks a little bit farther north up towards Jefferson County, we could be in for a pretty nasty blow if this one were to stay at that strength. That would bring huge damaging wind gusts to the area if that one moved a bit north. That's all the way out to the early morning of November 9th. And then has a cyclone coming through the Oregon coast on the 11th, Veterans Day. And then a series of frontal systems after that going into the next week. This is all completely in fantasy land right now. The AIFS shows something interesting too. This is the AI forecast system. This uses roots from the European forecast model, the ECMWF. It showed a pretty strong cyclone right there on the night of November 9th in the morning of the 10th, which would bring some pretty strong winds to some of these areas if it doesn't collapse in on itself. But it shows it rapidly collapsing in on itself as it makes landfall. These are tricky to forecast as well, because sometimes these do bring strong winds, sometimes they're a nothing burger. You know, so European AI forecast system showing something very intriguing for the November 9th, November 10th timeframe. But right now, it's looking more like a rain threat for that possible atmospheric river around the November 5th timeframe. Not seeing anything that's indicative of very strong winds around the Pacific Northwest. Breezy, yeah, sure, but nothing too major after that. See what the 12Z Canadian deterministic shows over the next 10 days. See, it picks up this storm tomorrow on the GDPS. And then it also trick-or-treaters again. This should be interesting. These kids have a dog, and I have 3 huskies, so that's going to be real great. There's a mob of probably a dozen kids, and one of them has a little dog. That's not going to go so well. So the Canadian agrees with I believe this was the European showing this, pulling this storm system down into central Oregon on the 3rd, night of the 3rd, morning of the 4th. So we do have 2 deterministic models agreeing on that right now. And it wants to pull this little offshore low with a cold front off the coast. This cold front could be what it's showing for the wind forecast that day on November 5th. It doesn't show any strong system impacting during that time frame. We'll have to watch this one as well if the Canadian is right. This shows sometime the morning of the 8th bringing a cyclone ashore right around the area where Saturday's storm made landfall. A different direction and much weaker in strength. This could bring a cold front across the area that could bring some relatively strong winds for a short time. Other than that, nothing of concern showing up on the Canadian. Getting a lot of doorbell alerts. Sorry about that, guys. I haven't had a single trick-or-treater. Hang on, my network dropped a little bit. Must be something to do with that rain outside, because it dropped out for the wind on Saturday. It made a really buffy stream on Saturday. Okay, 0Z NAM is 27 frames in. Yeah, the 0Z NAM has the low a little bit deeper than the HER, but maybe in a slightly less favorable spot for strong winds around here. That's the 12Z. No wonder. Way to go, Antonio. No, that makes more sense now. TJ says, haven't had one trick-or-treater and the rain is still heavy. Yeah, I don't know if the kids do trick-or-treating here at the apartments I'm staying at. They might, but just because I don't have any decorations up on my door right now or anything that suggests I have candy, you know, they may be refraining from coming this way. I haven't even gotten a single ring notification on my doorbell here yet. Knock on wood for that. So yeah, this is what the recent NAM 3KM, the 0Z, shows for the area. In Tacoma, up to 40 miles per hour by 8 a.m. And Seattle and Everett getting up to 40 miles per hour by 9. And then it hanging on in the 40 to 50 mile per hour range until around 1 p.m. when the backside of that front pops through. And the NAM has a much shorter-lived westerly surge down the strait tomorrow afternoon. And that should be enough to fire off the convergence zone, somewhere between King and Snohomish counties tomorrow afternoon. This has the likelihood of producing snow over the higher elevations as well, since we'll be on the backside of that next cold front. Wow, Sonia says, my roommate said that we ran out of candy, but another roommate went and bought more. MVPs right there. I can see the video signals kind of dropping out on the preview, but it looks like we got the bitrate back up. I don't know what that was about, because I have a hardwired connection with T-Mobile, so unless the T-Mobile servers are kind of struggling right now with all the trick-or-treaters, that's the only thing I can think of. Haven't had many problems with T-Mobile 5G home internet, though. And I like how you don't have to hardwire it to the wall, too, so it's extremely versatile. All right, we hit the 3-hour marker a while back, closing in on 400 views, and we currently have 34 likes on the stream. Thank you all so much for liking and viewing. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also like, comment, and share the stream to really get those algorithms going. We're right around 1,200 watch hours or so shy of getting additional benefits for the YouTube partnership program. So I can enable additional stream features such as buying super chats. And as one of my viewers suggested earlier, enabling custom emojis and whatnot with YouTube memberships. You know, that could be something of interest, but I just don't want to have too many subscriptions going. I've gotten a lot of flack from people who are tired of seeing the subscription only reels and the locked ones on their main blog page, because I usually post one subscriber reel a day, you know, and so that shows up in the main blog post, but it shows it with a lock symbol on it. And so I had some guy get angry at me over DMs the other day, saying that I would lose a lot of followers if I did that. And then the same guy commented on one of my more recent posts saying, you know, the self-promotion is really getting out of hand. But thankfully, several people came to the defense and shut him down pretty quickly. With all of this, he's been a follower the whole time, because I recently shut off all guest comments. So you have to be a follower for 24 hours on Facebook in order to comment on any post now. Like any of the newer posts. Any ones before that are still up in the archive, you can comment whatever you want. So if you really wanted to be a troll, you can do that. But if you're a loyal follower, I don't expect any of that. So But yeah, the 0Z NAM 3 cam is picking it back up quite a bit over this area. It has 45 miles per hour for the immediate Tacoma area. Some areas higher, farther east you go. For the Milton area, it has approximate gusts of 46 miles per hour at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So, trending a little bit earlier in the most recent NAM runs here. Not quite showing it for the 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. corridor anymore for peak. Showing it more towards 10 or 11 a.m. now. All right, back up to 14 viewers. It's been a while since we've been up to this point. Welcome everybody if you're just joining. Anthony here with Puget Sound Stormwatch, going over some new model guidance right now. Looking at the 0Z, which is the 5 p.m. run of the NAM 3KM high-res model, one of my personal favorites. And right after that, we had 4 people jump out. But yeah, we are about to hit 400 views, so pretty decent stream compared to previous ones. See if composite reflectivity picks up any of this convective action. It does show the convergence zone pretty clearly. It's instead of the normal west to east oriented one, it's more of a southwest to northeast oriented convergence zone. It may even have a secondary convergence right behind that too, which doesn't happen too often. It has a convergence zone forming sometime over Island County between Jefferson Island, Snohomish, and Skagit counties. Sometime around noon tomorrow, and then has it reach full maturity between 1 and 2 p.m. And then it moves off into the foothills, hangs around for a little bit over King and Snohomish counties, but then drifts off into the foothills after those westerly winds die down. And then it's really just hit or miss showers and calm conditions throughout the day on Sunday. Good to know the time. I can plan accordingly for tomorrow. Yeah, then again, remember, these are approximate model-based times, so things are up for change. It could change rapidly, so just be aware of your surroundings at all times. That is very important information. And I really, really wish this European rendered earlier, so I didn't have to wait so long. Just one model I don't use too often is the HRW framework models. These are also high resolution models, but I don't use them very often. Just see out of curiosity what it shows for winds tomorrow. Around 35 to 40 mile per hour gusts for this area, but not seeing anything serious on that model right now. The 0Z HRW FV3 cam model. See what the WRF ARW has to say. New run isn't in range yet, so we'll have to go with the 12Z. This model wants to bring some stronger wind gusts between Seattle and Everett around 50 miles per hour at around noon. Timing's there, but still some discrepancies in strength among the convection allowing or CAM models, as I like to call them. And we need 227 followers to get to 30K. The follower count has really started to slow down, like the new increase in followers. Must be those trick-or-treaters. But a lot of people are not going to be surprised when I post that the models have slightly pulled back on wind gusts for this area. All right, everyone. Any last minute comments, questions, or concerns from the viewership? If not, we're gonna start to sort of wind things down here real quick. A lot of the viewership starting to leave. It's peak trick-or-treating time, so there's really no more reason why I should be live right now, in my opinion. You know, really just trying to get the word out as much as possible before trick-or-treating time, but now that it is peak trick-or-treating time, I think the open window to be streaming has since passed. A lot of people are out and about right now. So close. Wish some of these models zoomed in farther too. That would be really helpful. What the experimental National Severe Storms Laboratory model shows for tomorrow. Right around that 40 to 45 range also. I think the 0Z may just be in range. Okay, 0Z trends up a little bit. The 0Z has around 45 miles per hour for the Tacoma area. This is the 0Z NSSL model. This is one that the National Severe Storms Laboratory uses. It's not one I use, it's another one of those experimental ones. It's painting most of the winds south of Seattle tomorrow though. This would be around 8 a.m. So it has the wind starting much earlier in the morning towards 7 a.m. on this one. Yeah, we're so close to that 30K marker. It's teasing me because the follower count stopped going up rapidly like it was earlier. I think over the last 48 hours, I think we gained another 1,000 followers. There's one called Pierce County Cop Watch that liked one of my posts. Haven't heard of that one. That one's new to me. See what the experimental RRFS model shows right now. This is one that's set to replace the NAM 3KM sometime next year for active commission. That's tonight. See, this is why it's experimental outlier for that time. That's why I don't use this model. I personally don't think it's ready to be commissioned quite yet. See what some of the ensembles are showing for averages tomorrow and for the rest of the week. So these are 6-hour max gusts averaged out from 50 different ensemble members. Showing pretty windy for the November 5th and November 6th range, but we're working with lower resolution here, just as a huge heads up. So the ensemble guidance between 5 and 11 shows wind gusts pretty close to the 40 mile per hour range for most of us. This is the average of 50 different tweaked parameters. Average back out into 1. So at least the European ensemble seems to be on board with that. Wonder what the blend of models shows, the NBM. These are high resolution models as well. But more so of an ensemble than not. Yeah, the NBM model here only shows like 20 to 25 mile per hour gusts. So just another reason why I don't use it. Personally, would not use it for a shorter range forecast like this. Just my honest opinion. And you guys are getting a little behind the scenes to how I originate these forecasts as well. You know, a little bit of behind the scenes diagnostic work to see, you know, follow the trends between models and how I formulate my forecast with the numbers that I do. So starting to get in range with the 1Z now. This has 38 mile per hour wind gusts for Tacoma and Seattle at 8 a.m. It doesn't have us getting much higher than that. As some areas out here getting up towards 40. But it seems like we're on a downtrend with the HRRR now. So quite a big downtrend from the 0Z to the 1Z. It could have something to do with the storm strength again. Might have it just a tad bit weaker than the previous frame here. It has it somewhere around 1002 millibars over the Olympics, however. Yeah, I'm not sure why the bit rate cut out so much, so the stream may be choppy for some of you guys. This happened on Saturday's stream as well, but I blamed it on the wind. We don't have the wind right now, but it may be just because a lot of people are on the servers right now in the area because they're trick-or-treating. That's the best I can think of for that reasoning right there. Yeah, I definitely got to post one more update tonight on the main blog. So get to that as soon as the stream's over. You can definitely hear the rain picking up now. See what the radar looks like at the moment. Yeah, the next round of heavy rain is right on top of Tacoma, so that explains that. Trying to zoom out without crashing this site. Okay, I think we're good on that. But tomorrow's storm system is somewhere in this area by the looks of it right now. All right, I appreciate you guys all so much for coming out. Anthony here with Puget Sound Stormwatch. Watching this area for development overnight. This thing could be on our doorstep as soon as 6 a.m. tomorrow, from what some models are showing. So it could be a long day for wind tomorrow if what the models are showing is correct. Oh, just remember that in the back of your minds when you're out and about tomorrow morning and afternoon. You know, I won't be able to cover it fully throughout the day because I do have dinner plans tomorrow, but for the first chunk I may be able to, you know, at least give you guys updates on Facebook and Patreon as well. I'll cross-post the Patreon, but if you guys want to follow on Patreon here, patreon.com/CW/Puget Sound Stormwatch. We just got that 4th member. Thank you, TJ, for pledging on Patreon. Here's the recent update if you want to read the blog post here. Sonia says, thank you, Anthony. Great job. Voice box is not as sore today. Can definitely feel a little pressure on the voice box, but nowhere near as sore as last Saturday. I was not expecting an 8.5 hour long stream, but you know, you guys asked for it, so I delivered. TJ says, thank you, have a great night. Thank you, TJ, for tuning in as long as you did. Same with everybody else. Okay, we're going to end right at the 3 hour, 30-minute mark here on the stream. I appreciate everyone's time tonight. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for the birthday wishes. Have a great birthday tomorrow. If I don't talk to you, enjoy your day. Thank you for the kind words, Sonia, and everyone else. TJ says, bye, Sonia. Good luck with moving. Likewise. Likewise, Sonia.